Hello there, how are we? Give me a wee second. Usual stuff. Right. How are we all doing? Camera's a wee bit low, is it now? Oh, fuck it. So there's no title on this one. It's pretty much going to be the last of this, you know. As I said before, I'm going to be changing things for the future. So just before I go any further, anybody that wants anything from the channel is going to be bleached. I'm just going to leave up the the activism, the interviews for now, and I'll be uploading new stuff as I go forward in the future. But I'm having a wee debate with myself because I just can't be bothered with it, to be honest with you. Sometimes you think to yourself, how far can you actually go with this? On YouTube's, is there anything different going to happen? Are you going to get a decent conversation at any point? So I'm really not sure about what I'm going to do in the future, to be honest. I'm still going to be active. Whether or not I record the majority of the interactions, we'll see. I probably will record some of them and put them up there and talk about what's happening. But the live stuff and whatever else, unless I've got something that I really want to discuss or something that I want to highlight just to map out myself, then I'll be on. But this opening up the platform for anybody, it's just not going to happen. So if anybody in the future wants to have a discussion or offer anything up through this platform, you have to email me, and that's about it. There's not going to be any posting of a live link into the chat box because it's just too disruptive. I can't be bothered, wasting my time on a Saturday or any other evening or any other time for that matter with moronic people. As I've said before, and again, if anybody's new to this, we're being subjected to zealotry, cult fanatics, of a particular worldview, that being a heliocentric globe earth model or concept of our reality. I used to be one of these people who assumed that to be very true, never really put my attention to it. I remember as a youth I had some doubts, but that was as far as it went. As an adult, applying some logic, some reasoning internally, not trying to reason with anybody else, only with my own, internal voice, I could not justify maintaining the belief that I lived on the exterior of a oblate spheroid anymore. Practicality, everyday living, the assumption that Earth is a plane, the use of Euclidean plane geometry that is applied in every aspect of our living, the behaviour, the mechanics of water, your own experience of reality is telling you that it is a level Earth that you're upon. There's really nothing else to be said about it. The argumentation, the sophistry, the word salad, the confusion, the complexity of jargon comes from heliocentric globe cult peoples. That is there because it's a lie, it is dishonest, and they have to keep fabricating more and more ad hoc rubbish on top of it to try and prop it up and keep it going. Okay, so it doesn't get any more fantastical than globular earth belief. I have been subject to the sheer fanaticism, bordering on criminality, from these people, trying to defend something that they claim is objectively true, and that people who refuse or deny the claim that the earth is a globe are somehow mentally ill or there's something wrong with them. And it's just a minority of morons who would assert such a thing, but yet they feel the need to, continually bombard people like myself and many others who are questioning it, every single day, every minute of every day, constantly on it, on task, trying to defend an apparent objective truth. Here's the thing, if there's an objective truth in our reality, it doesn't need any man to defend it. It is there. It is only there for people to discover it. So, the lunacy of their thinking and their idiotic logic is very apparent. We have offered up, I have offered up an open platform, a willingness to engage in rational discussion, which can only be had when we're talking about objective reality. There is no dichotomy, and anybody trying to push it as a dichotomy is either stupid or they're doing it deliberately. They're part of the propaganda in order to dissuade and confuse people. Okay? It can only be discussed. I cannot reason with another man when he has no practical reference for his assertions or the claims he's making to me about the objective reality that he shares with me. It must come to a practical reference. Language is useless. I'm not interested in it, and neither should you be. So when you apply that and you're at that state of mind, you realise that what you've been believing in and what these people are trying to assert is not only wrong, it's absolutely absurd, contrary to experience, contrary to physical demonstration. The confusion that people have is that they see it on a TV screen and you have institutions propping it up with certainty and asserting it with authority that it's indeed true. It's not true. You have many other institutions who partake in the same type of behaviour. You understand that these institutions are false, they're corrupt. So it should be no different with this. Just because you see it in the TV, you have a choice. You can either ignore your own constitution, your own faculties, your own discernment, your own ability to experience reality and the substances therein, and understand them, or you can throw that out the window and opt in favour of a concept produced as an image and presented to you as an image, supported by ad hoc gibberish, fallacious reasoning and logic, sophistry, barefaced lies. That's up to you. As a sane human being, I opt for the grounds of, I do not know the full dimensions of where I am. I understand the geometric assumption is that the earth is a level plane. I understand the substances are telling me that the earth is a level plane. What surrounds us, how far the perimeter is, what the perimeter is, if there's a perimeter, a restricted, enclosure, whatever it may be, I do not know, and nobody knows. Nobody that I know, anyway. Many, many people are making claims and professing that they know what it is, when in reality they do not know. What has to happen is that intellectual honesty has to kick in. People start needing to display some integrity, particularly in the academic arena. Because what they're professing and pushing as physics and real science, that being exploration of physicality, is the total opposite. It's just another religion, another substitute that's just going to bamboozle you, keep you in bewilderment so that you will never figure it out. Reality is very simple. Its function, the relationships between substances and what you can demonstrate to yourself are very, very simple. That's what it has to stay. So involved in this whole thing now, we've got, I think a lot of the problem is that there's been a huge push of atheistic thinking over the last few decades, and you have so many people now who have committed to a particular philosophical, reasoning of what they think reality is, right? So, it's twofold here. You've got religious people who come to this discovery, which supports, obviously, that this place was a created, intended, designed construct. So you have the theist, the religious type people who are jumping on the bandwagon and thinking that just because of that, it somehow lends credence to their particular line of religious inquiry, whatever it may be. Which is totally wrong. We can intellectually realise that being a construct and something that's designed, fabricated. What's behind that? Its reasons, how it came to be, the whole history of it. It's a guessing game. You have to be honest enough to realise that. And if you want progress, you have to represent it like that. and stop muddying it by injecting your religious bias into it. But at the same time, these atheistic thinkers are digging their heels in because they do not want to concede that, because you've got the religious people, this false dichotomy again. Remember, these two factions have been played off each other for the last, couple of decades, whatever. Atheist versus theist. So there's been an ongoing kind of intellectual war. I say intellectual very loosely because they're anything but. Just wee regurgitators picking their bias and then sitting on that side of the fence. Doesn't make you intellectual. Makes you a fucking moron in my book. But these atheistic type peoples are digging their heels in. They do not want to accept that this experience is a created design. Purely probably because of the fact of, they assume that there has to be some adopting of a religious type stance, which is totally wrong again. You don't have to be on board with any of the offerings of man's concepts of creators and gods or any of that gibberish. You're supposed to be arriving at a grounds of intellectual honesty, clear perception, ready to reason and understand reality. What that requires is an exploration, which is what science really means. Exploring the grounds that we found ourselves on. See how far it goes. What can we discover? What aspect of this reality can we discover that gives us another piece of the puzzle to maybe give us a clearer, bigger picture of what we're a part of here? So, it's not just there, as I've spoken about before, and that's going to lead me into what I want to talk about a wee bit here as well. Human beings don't know where they are, they don't know what they're a part of, they don't know what it's about, they don't know their role within it. They're listening to stories, they're listening to man's ideas. Now, these ideas can be very powerful, particularly when they're repeated over and over and pumped through mainstream channels into education systems. Right? They're all delusional. Regardless of what you think you are, how you identify, your name's Joe Blogs and you're an electrician and you have 2.5 children and you're this and you're that. You're reaffirming these things to yourself, telling yourself that's what you are, this is what your life's about. They're just ideas. They're just concepts. You don't know where you are. You don't know what you're a part of here. You need to be strong enough to stand in that ground saying, I don't know what's going on here. Because if you know, you're going to find yourself on the side of a fence, a dichotomy that's false. So I'm not interested in people with weak-minded bias, looking to reaffirm their bias or attack some other bias that threatens their bias. I'm not interested in any of it. I'm not interested in, existential storylines of our existence and all this philosophical jargon. Don't care about any of it. I'm a realist. I have a fuck you attitude. And I make no apologies for it. The only apologies I make is cross wires in communication where, relations have broken with people due to that. But if people have got integrity and they're strong enough, these things can be rectified. If no, they don't be. So, I make no apologies for my contempt of stupidity. And I have a serious fuck you attitude for sophists, liars, manipulators, people who are trying to sow seeds of confusion. Not because I've got a messiah complex, because I want to save the world, or any of that rubbish either. No, it's because I'm being selfish. I want to know where the fuck I am. And I need you and as many other people standing on the same grounds as me, ready and wanting that exploration with a clear, understanding that you really want to understand where you are and what you're a part of here. And not opting for delusional jobby. Oh, a bit of money, a bit of fame, a bit of notoriety, a bit of stature within my particular society or whatever it may be. You can fuck off. None of that stuff interests me at all. There's a bigger picture here than just the idiotic notions and concepts of man. So, I don't really have much more to say on that. Over the last few years, as I say, I've typecast myself. I've got into a pattern of a certain way of behaviour, particularly online. That's going to be changing from now on. Okay, so the reasons why I done it and displayed that, as I spoke about in one of the very early videos, was there's an aspect of entertainment because it reaches people, because people are looking for that. That's what draws people in. I spoke very early on about using and incorporating the tools that have been used to disempower you. Okay, so I'm a passionate guy. I have sometimes got a short fuse, but the majority of the time I select when I'm going to utilise it, and I always utilise it in regards to sophistry, lies, manipulation, because I want to be a representative for people to see that as something to, look at, to aspire to, because there's far too much apathy going on right now. There's far too much weak-spined, weak minds that's being perpetuated and, prompted to be as such by the mainstream yet again. They're turning everybody into, snowflakes. There comes a point where you have to draw a line in the sand. I understand my faculties. I understand what I know about reality and what people are trying to claim to me. I do not need them to define it for me. I make my own discernment, and when I have made that discernment, I ain't shifting. I'm going to draw my line in the sand, and if you keep coming at me with bullshit and trying to, antagonise me or warp my perceptions or think that you're going to achieve, changing my state of being, then the fuck you contempt is going to come, and I encourage everybody to have the same. There's too many people out there, predators, preying, waiting to spot weakness in you so that they can pounce upon it. Don't let yourself be subject to that, because again, it lies at your feet. You're the one that sets yourself up for everything. Anywho, a couple of other things I want to talk about. I watched Anne Flat Earth Female's latest upload. There's a couple of things I want to say on it. First and foremost, it's absolutely brilliant to see somebody that's came through a hard time to be looking so vibrant and bright and positive and looking to the future and to be excited about stuff. In that video, Anne, said some things that made me think, about how I come across and how people are understanding what I mean. So she was talking about, she still wants to know where she is, but at the same time, she's going to, enjoy herself and she's going to look to the good things in life. Well, that's pretty much the same as me. I've touched on it before. I look at this place as an abomination. As a whole, the whole place and what it represents, for me it is an abomination. But I've said it before, there's aspects of beauty that I value. The things that I value is the other sentience. Okay? Now, I don't just mean sentience that aligns with my bias or my preference. I appreciate every aspect of sentience, from the animals to, the varying spectrum of human that is here. Okay? So that's what I hold dear. I still value that. It's the sentience, it's the people and what they are inside that are of value to me. The material aspect, the human body, the construct that we find ourselves in, it means diddly fucking squat to me. Right? Seeing somebody happy, positive, at ease with himself, ready to embrace whatever, that's what makes me happy. That's what makes me content. Okay? So although I talk about this place as an abomination, I'm not talking about it from a fear position. I'm talking about it from experience of life, reasoning with my own internal dialogue, assessing the world around me, having a look at it. I remember going through a phase of, weakness and, new age spiritual bollocks and, it's going to be alright and it's so beautiful and it's a gift and this, that and the other, and it's not. I'm still going to maintain that. People really need to have a look at what this place actually is. How the fuck did we end up in here? Right? So, it's not a place of negativity and fear-based. Right? And although we need to know where we actually are in order to further our understanding, that doesn't prevent us from having a real experience of sharing time with other sentience. Okay? Have an experience there and sharing a connection between them. So I just wanted to put that out there because I thought maybe it gets misconstrued, when I heard Anne talking about it. So, for me there's nothing wrong. I partake in whatever I choose. I know what makes me happy. I know what satisfies me, where I can place my attention, what I put my attention to, what I contribute to. But that's the difference. There's a huge difference there of being conscious of what you're participating in than just being, blindly, a cog in the machine of expectation and, idea placement. Okay? So you see people that just pursue these avenues of life that are just offerings of previous events, previous patterns and habits, and they just follow through them, right? And they get all caught up in them, they become saturated in it. You see people defending their sport or their whatever it is, their bias, yada yada. Don't take any of these things too seriously, is my message to you. Right? Partake in whatever you like, but be conscious of what you're partaking in and the reasons why you're partaking in them. I don't even know if that made much sense, but I tried. And again, following on from Anne's, I'm in a scenario right now where I lost a family member not too long ago, and I've just been back from the hospital, and it looks like I'm going to lose another one. So it's in moments like that that your mortality really sets in. When we're young, it seems like a million miles away. It feels like it's never going to happen. But when you see a man, and probably one of the only men that I've ever had any real respect for in my life, in that position, it really makes me sit up and take note. And again, reaffirming to you what is really valuable here to me, and that's just it. It's the experience of these other beings that I value. Yeah. So it's the same for every one of you out there, regardless of whether you're a globe believer or whatever, an antagoniser, anybody that's been to this platform. I have no ill will against you, really. I have none. I do not harbour any hatred. I do not give you a second thought when I switch the computer off and I go about my business. It's none of that. This is a circus on here. Okay? Now, people will not talk about it being a circus because people like to come on here and act all windswept and interesting, like they're unique and they're out there and they're somebody that you should admire and follow and this, that and the other. Right? I don't want you following any fucker. Be inspired. You can be inspired by other individuals. Don't idolise them. Don't follow them. If you find yourself there, you've got a problem. Right? This is a circus. And for me, as I say, there were certain aspects that I wanted to highlight and stand up to. And I've done that. And, to my own detriment, I typecast myself. I became used to that type of behaviour on here. No more. Not interested in it. So, in the future, if I'm opening up for discussion, it's going to be for people who have, decency about them, who are mannered, who are respectful, that can understand how to have an actual discussion with another human being. And as I say, if it's in regards to the dimensions of the earth, it's based purely on objectivity. There is no emotional influence or sway required whatsoever. So I'll not be accepting any of it. If there is nothing being offered in the way of practicality, demonstration, I'll not be accepting it. Now, what you need to remember is that the contrary claim is that it's a globe. That's the absurd, out there, fantastical claim. Because nobody who is alive right now experiences the earth as a sphere in any way, shape or form. Nothing that they could point to, show in any experiential way would suggest even remotely that they're on a spheroid spinning through a vacuum. We're going to move on to next. I'm just going to have a wee quick. Yellow Submarine posted a video. I've seen the guy before. It was about a message from a cult leader. Hyperianism or something he's going on about now. There's always these isms and jisms and fucking bisms, and this is all human beings desperately trying to clutch at certainty. They just don't have the ability to stand there and say they don't know what's going on, because they start off from a root problem where they make an assumption or think they have themselves grounded in where they actually are. And then they start to reason their processes and their experience from that foundation, When the reality is if they don't know the foundation, what are you reasoning? This guy in particular starts to talk about Messiah complex. He starts to display Messiah complex, issues, thinking that, oh, well, I'm rational and I'm reasonable and I'm this and that, the other. And then he goes on to talk about, implementing these things as a society. And again, this is where I see the problem. Societies is where you're going to get a problem. The root of the problem is dependency. That's where corruption takes place. Who is it that's suggesting that human beings have to live as a society? They'll say shit like, oh, but it's beneficial for us to live as a society. No, it's just for lazy fuckers it's beneficial. For lazy people, it'd be beneficial. If every human being does not acquire the necessary skills to be self-sufficient as an individual, there is a problem. And there will be problems in the future. So when I hear the word society being injected into any conversation, alarm bells start ringing for me. This society must make sure that every individual is equipped with the necessary tools to be self-sustainable. Because if you don't, corruption, dependency are going to creep in. If you live in a small scale version of some of these ideals, as I pointed out before, oh, the carpenter does this, the carpenter does that, and I'm the blacksmith, I do this and I do that, and the farmer, he provides blah, blah. What happens if any one of these people die? Who takes a place? So, I have many questions for these people that want to spout about societies. Okay, now as I spoke about before, anarchy first and foremost starts internally in the mind. You have to strip away the influences of what are affecting your reasoning, right? Which is probably some, structure of transcendental hierarchy that's expected of you, and you're moderating your own behaviour, your own discernment based on that. You really have to have a look at it. So, society stuffs is about dependency on other people, right? If you're going to live in a life like that, you better take extreme measures to make sure corruption never takes hold again. Because as far as I can see, I really don't think there is enough measures that you could take to stop the corruption taking hold. See, if you keep breeding dependency, you're leaving things open for corruption. Anyhow. Starting to get it's kind of warm in these rhinos. Fuck me, man. I'll just open the door. So as I say, people sometimes look at me and think I'm a big fucking serious chappy, and I'm really not. I take nothing in this life seriously whatsoever. Yeah. As I said before, I'm involved in this for selfish reasons. I know I don't have the logistical capabilities to, access everywhere I want to access in order to satisfy my curiosity about where I actually am. Thereby giving me a possible piece of the jigsaw to the bigger picture of what I'm a part of. No. I require other human beings for that. Right? Know that I need to be dependent upon them. But in this particular scenario, because of the situation we find ourselves in, that's what's required. It's the only way I can see out of it. Other than that, people are just going to perpetually go round in circles, chasing delusions, ideas, biases, getting absolutely fucking nowhere. Right, it's mild for December. This is a problem. I keep preparing myself because it's winter and I go out with jumpers and jackets and then I'm sweating my tits off. Let me open this right up. Fuck me. So, right, what's everybody saying here? I forget what else we were going to talk about there. See, I'm not bored titling it because I'm going to just obliterate the channel from all the lives. There's so much lost within it. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start, making bite-sized chunks of condensed aspects of everything that's been learned, everything that's been spoken about over the last 5 years, and just start offering that up, along with, other activities. As I say, I'm going to be speaking to people, real Joe blogs, not just about the shape of the earth, but, other aspects, with the hope of leading them into that, as I say, because I'm never going to stop with it. Until that is satisfied in me, I'm not going to stop. Because once you make that realisation, there is no going back. It would take a hell of a lot for me to opt for some delusional idea and satisfy myself for the rest of my life. Right? Millions of squids might, titillate me for a very short period, but eventually I'd get fucking fed up and bored of that, and I'd be right back at square one again. So there is a definite agenda to take you off the road of these types of questions. Everything's fair game. You can talk about all sorts of gibberish and fantasy and nonsense, metaphysical hoo-hoo, but don't ever be questioning the surroundings of the objective arena that you find yourself in. Don't ever be pushing to go and explore these areas because they don't want that. Trust me, they don't want that. They're quite content with you sitting about adopting all sorts of nonsense and doing research and listening to researchers offering you up fucking metaphysical woo-woo about a lot of fucking pish and gobbledygook. Because when you hear something new, it titillates you for a wee period of time and you think you've gained some new perspective on the objective reality that you're a part of. And in reality, you've no. Well, there's garbage about, you're always angry, you're always this, that and the other. Well, I'm not really angry. I've got contempt and I'm pissed off. It's no unhinged, irrational, fucking emotionally impulsive anger. It's justified pissed offedness at the situation we're in. Where's my point of recourse? Because I've woke up out of the slumber, I've somehow to be chastised for that, or anybody else is. Fuck you. Your wee hypnotic trances are bullshit, and it's no my fault if they don't work. So, as I said at the very beginning of this, these cock munchers better start putting people like me in the picture, or I'll just keep causing a fucking noise. The reality is, and the problem they have with somebody like me is that I'm not going to get involved in debates and perpetuating and prolonging all that bullshit, because they know, I know, that it's not a fucking sphere. So how do you deal with somebody like that? The only way you can deal with them is to use propaganda techniques to attack them from every other avenue other than the content that you're focused upon. And as I say, over the last 5 years, that's what we've seen in abundance. There is not one person as a representative of the globular heliocentric cosmology gibberish who can sit in front of me and have a reasoned, calm discussion. Not one. I've yet to experience it. It's quite concerning. And as I've highlighted before, it's even more concerning when you're going into these areas of academia. The brights, those of us amongst us who are supposed to be somehow, more intellectually capable. They couldn't reason their way out of a fucking paper bag. They don't even know why they believe the things they believe in. They've been subjected to a religious cult who repeats mantras over and over and over again and rewards them for regurgitating it. Now, these people have had nothing else to reference. That's all they've experienced their whole life. So at the same time as I talk about it like that, I have empathy for them. They've had nothing else to reflect on. They've been told a one-party line, and that's it. So all this talk about cults and yada yada, people like me are the furthest thing from a fucking cult. I've escaped from a cult. I don't mean like physically have to leave a place. Here, this is where it counts. Other things as well, you know, that the homeschooling aspect and stuff like the trivium, you know, I'm gonna show these things simplistically. These things are no complex academic teachings, right? What I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and show you in a common fashion. You've had this since you were a child. All it is language based, that people have managed to utilise language in order to map and highlight the workings of here. Now, naturally, you know, as a child, you know, that's freed and encouraged, would formulate these patterns of reasoning that would be able to pull apart things that are bullshit, right? But the majority of children these days are subject to, again, the machine, the brainwashing, the propaganda, with nothing else to reflect upon. So when we talk about things like the trivium, I'm going to show you and highlight it that it's very simplistic and that you've already been utilising it. You probably just don't even know it. That's again the problem with language. Sometimes language makes things more complicated than it actually has to be. I'll give you an example of that. You know, I realised that with music. I've always been a practical person. So, you know, when I first started learning an instrument, everything was practical. You know, somebody sat in front of me, I didn't want to hear them speaking, just play the thing. I'll visualise the patterns, the shapes, I can memorise that, and then I'll progress from there on in. Then when I put my attention to the theoretical side of it, it became complicated, right? And I would look at explanations of you know, music theory, and it would take me ages to twig on and go, fuck, I've already been doing that. But because I've lent my attention to the theoretical language-based side, you know, it just bamboozled me. So the same is true for things like trivium. It's not an academic type thing, right? And again, we'll look at how, you know, by applying these things, and when you're somebody who can reason to a point of truth or real world facts, how you can then subvert these things and utilise language in order to take people away in a different direction, or make them think, make them think, you know, or have a relationship with, you know, the desired outcome that's contrary to what it actually is, by using rhetoric and rhetorical devices. So that's going to be the kind of future. As I say, I'm not wasting my time here on a Saturday evening listening to fucking morons playing fucking, you know, music and whatever else. It just doesn't interest me, right? As I say, I've had enough of displaying how to spank these people, how to take apart their bullshit, their sophistry. I've done it in abundance now. I just can't be bothered with it. So again, I'll give people until probably midday tomorrow, and then I'm going to bleach the channel, so all live hangouts will be gone. So you've been warned. Anything you want, you better get it. Exactly. Steve HV flat just means it's not a ball. Again, the absurdity of these people, this is how they misrepresent, you know, intellectually honest people when you use the word flat or level. You know, they'll just put out there the assumption that we're talking about a tabletop. Oh, that means there's a tabletop flat. No. It's just as Steve said, it just, to people like me, it just meant it's not a ball. You know, and flat denotes, you know, a level line. So we have undulations, we have high points, and we have low points. All, you know, quantified by, you know, the level. And the level that we quantify it by is water level. So that's where we get altitude, you know, above and below from that line. So you take all the oceans, all the water out, you're going to have concavity, right? So all these people that run about, the Earth's concave, it's no flat. Aye, well, I agree. Aye, it's concavity to the Earth. But what we mean is that it's just not a globe. It's some sort of containment, right? That has to be discovered and known. So again, an appeal to these people to stop perpetuating the dichotomies, the false dichotomies, you know, penning people into different belief systems and trying to defend them. It's very sneaky, dishonest of you. You know fine well people like myself are not claiming that we're talking about a flat fucking smooth tabletop floating about in space. No, that's rubbish. Again, that's just a sign of you're incapable of reasoning and thinking. So again, just going back to Anne's thing, that's one of the things I've struggled with a lot. It's like, you know, as people like myself and people like Anne, you see that appreciation for some of the beautiful aspects, the want to nurture another human being, you know, and be there and support them. But yet we're stuck slam bang in the middle of this absurdity, you know, this abomination where everything's eating everything else. It's all about surviving, the struggle of life, the yada yada. It's a bizarre thing. It's polarizing, you know, internally, because as I say, you've got these aspects that you appreciate, that you see, and then you've got the total polar opposite of that, where you're like, what the fuck am I a part of here? You know? So, anyhow. Well, I'm not keeping all the vids. As I say, what was, you know, things that were important aspects, I'll go back over again, but I'll be condensing them. There's just too much haze. There's so many good aspects and amongst an immense amount of fucking rubbish. So I just want to bleach it, you know, and start afresh and move on. As I say, I'm going to be approaching things, particularly when we're talking about objectivity, with clear, concise language. I'm not going to be accepting that I've been dragged into any bullshit. Any protagonists, you know, antagonisers, propagandists out there will be highlighted and dismissed immediately. If we're not focused on the topic, the objective inquiry, it will be highlighted, and that'll be the end of it. I'm not getting in here to waste my time or anybody else's time. This is Satan's realm. That was the other aspect of that guy talking about, oh, we're here to learn, or this, that, and the other. I have real issues with these things. You know, learn what? You know, for what purpose? You think you're going to learn your particular culture or society's ways and the interactions of it, and then transcend this experience into a new experience where you carry forward that, you know, learnings into another paradigm or dimension or something where there's beings waiting to welcome you because you're a learned, you know, individual now that you can come into their wee society. I mean, what goes on in people's fucking brains? I just don't get it. Learn what? That's it, Chris. I'll just delete all the stuff with Ali in it. Fuck you, Ali. You're getting bleached out. Come and think it's all you, Chris. You've been in there all. Fuck you, T. You're getting bleached. I don't want to be associated with fucking wrongings like you. Oh, another tea. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Thank you. Can you open that? Just keep it right open. It's too warm in here.
Right open?
I open it right up.
Wow.
That's too hot. Right. Cheers, Tom Gauthier. As I say, you know, way back at the beginning, as everything was kind of unfolding and happening, it seemed like a good idea to have an open platform to be welcoming. And back then there was a lot of these other flat earth channels who were just creating echo chambers, who were silencing dissent and people asking questions. And at the time I wanted to represent objectivity, integrity, honesty, and have the platform open for whoever wanted to come in. But it's degraded since then, and we don't get a lot of new voices. Probably a lot because of the fuckety fuck you language from me, and the propaganda, and the disruption from these gimps, which was deliberate on their part. So well, just as we say, we'll got them in here in the chat box. So user, see you later. And I always said, if it did degrade, then I'm not going to keep it open, And again, I've got issues internally because I look at, media outlets and platforms like YouTube and whatever, and it's all about influencing each other. And I don't really know if I'm on board with that kind of influence, but as I said, I have a struggle because selfishly, I know that logistically I need other people in a position where it increases the chances of me knowing exactly where this place is and what it is. So I've had an internal struggle with that for a long time, that I just want to walk away because it's something I disagree with. I don't think subjective ideas and concepts should be ever allowed to be in the public arena. These things should be kept privately at all times, because as soon as you start putting one up there above the other, it starts to appear to the impressionable minds that it has more validity and that they're going to ascribe to it and that they're going to follow and partake in that particular line of idea. So influencing each other is a very touchy subject as far as I'm concerned, and something that I've struggled with for a long time, because I see it and I see the power of it, and I really don't want any part of it. But circumstances for me make it so that I feel as if I had to, as I say, to increase my chances. If I got that clarity, then as I said before, if we had the clarity and I got that knowledge, that knowing, you would never see me on here again. I would have nothing to offer you. I'm not walking away anywhere, just some guy. No, I'm not going anywhere. Never said that. See, if people are going to still keep using places like YouTube, for me it's much more beneficial to condense things into bite-sized chunks that are easy to digest than to expect Joe Blogs to sit through 3 years of disruption and nonsense in order to get that wee nugget. So I'm not going to waste my attention or my time on that anymore. As I say, it's still my incentive to get more people to a position of wanting exactly what I want, and I'm going to pursue that avenue, which for me is condensing things. Look at the psychology of people these days. They need quick hits, quick fix. How many people do you know that have the attention span to sit through a 3-year video? Particularly when it's something that's out with their scope of preference. It's not going to happen. You're not going to go to the cinema and watch a movie for 3 years that you have no interest in, but doesn't tickle your fancy. Unless, of course, the movie condenses some wee aspect that captures your attention and draws you in. Again, going back to utilising the tools. So it's about refining the tools, sharpening them, and putting them to use. So, I'm not going anywhere. Your ass gets sore sitting watching it. My arse, my legs, and everything gets fucking sore sitting here talking to a bit of plastic for fucking 3 years. Right? I don't think you're going to get any fucking, sympathy from me, I'm afraid. You try being in my position. You know, she get helicopters. This is a point. You know, if anybody out there has that capability, you know, highlight it. Send me an email or a message or something with a timestamp to a particular thing that you thought was of use, and I will extract it. Or if you have the time, you extract it. Collaborations can be had by me, you know, for any of the decent people out there that have got any ideas of collaborative, you know, works. We can utilise this platform and we can condense things and we can make it potent. So you can let me know. As I said, I've always been open to that. And a lot of this has been useful to me because the majority of my life I've been an introvert. So there's a lot of things I've had to learn about myself through this process as well, and things that you can succumb to, and things that you can lapse into. You know, that's been part of my lesson as well. Again, something that I'm appreciative of. We've all got things to learn, you know. And going from an introvert to putting yourself out there onto public, you know, platforms week in, week out is something that's opened my eyes up to a lot. Not just about myself, but other people. Well, that's it, Brian. As I say, you know, you've got to look at the psychology of people. The hangouts will just be put to private, Don. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put them onto private. And then that way I can, you know, if anybody points at anything or I can get through them, I will extract, you know, small bite-sized chunks. But, you know, there's many other people have already done that. As I say, it's not just about me. This is not about a personality and me gaining stature or any of that stuff. It's about the message, and if it's something that you think is valuable and useful, then use it. Take it, cut it down, put it out there, share it with whoever. No, not pre-recorded. I'll still come on. But as I say, it's going to be with something specific to talk about. It's going to be concise. And if anybody wants to collaborate within it, they can do so. But as I say, I'm not just going to open up willy-nilly, posting links into the chat box. That's the stuff I want to eradicate. It doesn't do anybody any use. It's no use to me. It doesn't stimulate me. It doesn't satisfy me in any way, shape or form. All the spankings have been given. I have shown in abundance how you spank these clowns, you know, with their language and their bullshit. I can't keep doing it. It's just wearing me down. Aye, trolls, trolls, whatever. Key cunts like you material. Discord. Meryl went on and on at me about the Discord thing again, so I went in this afternoon to the guy Gem Pandas and I recorded it. Again, you have to be very cautious of these people, and I recorded it for the purposes of showing that they're no intellectually honest people. They're no there for honest discourse. They're there just to antagonise and try and warp people and break them into believing absurdities. With people in there professing that, you know, Euclidean geometry can apply to curved surfaces, that you can indeed use triangulation, i.e. triangles on curved surfaces. I mean, it was an absolute disaster. Absolute disaster for them. Immense amounts of ignorance and stupidity. Aye. Apparently Euclidean geometry applies to curved surfaces. Wonderful. Well, the live chat will still be there, Matthew. See, I will be coming on from time to time. The only thing is that if you get something to say to me, you'll need to send me an email. It's dead simple. Send an email, I send you a link directly, you come in, there's no interruptions, then we can have a decent conversation. What are we looking at today? I see Andrew, Execrate 200 has been doing some nice wee observations in New Zealand. People should check it out, Andrew's channel. I'll just stick that in there. This was a belter. Let's have a wee watch at this. This is the absolute lunacy, right, that people buy into.
Traveling through the sun's blazing hot atmosphere, NASA's Parker Solar Probe has sent back a complex, close-up view of our star.
This is cartoons, by the way.
The spacecraft confirmed that
more cartoons. Spacecraft went to the sun. Aye, a wee robot went to the sun. Into the vacuum of space where it's got nothing to propel itself against, somehow manages to get to a conceptual star, sun thing, that's 93 million miles away, and then sends data back and they construct it and make wee cartoons out of it, and it's all very real.
That our picture of the sun from Earth is deceptively simple. Parker is the closest spacecraft to the sun, meaning we now have never-before-seen details about the solar...
Oh, let's see these never-before-seen details. You notice the use of language. Never-before-seen details. Right, that just means language. Never-before-seen words.
Wind and solar energetic particles.
Because that's cartoons.
Solar energetic particles are high-energy particles that can endanger both astronauts and satellites in space.
Oh, it can endanger, fantasy in space. It's not endangering anybody because space as a vacuum coexisting adjacent to our pressurised environment with no membrane between us and it is lunacy. As physics will demonstrate to you if you're not too lazy and you actually go and have a wee look for yourself about what reality shows you in regards to these claims. This is what I'm talking about. What does reality show me about, vacuums and pressurised systems? That's right, they have to be contained from each other or equilibrium will be found. But no. These clowns can just show you a cartoon on the TV and say stuff and you'll believe it.
The solar wind is the continuous outflow of particles and magnetic field from the sun.
Rubbish. Can't be bothered. This is what I'm saying. I watch this stuff now and I'm just like losing the will to live really, really quickly. Particles. Oh, no worries, Stacey. Thanks for that. Colouring in artists, indeed, Chris F. E. Jackson. They're very good colouring in artists. They don't go outside the lines. It's a real skill to maintain within the lines if you're colouring in. Go hand it to them, mate. Females. Where are we here? Hang on a minute. Right, let me see. What time is this at? 20. What's up? Name's Tony. Wouldn't mind talking for a minute. Right, Tony. Let me just send you a wee link here. Link sent, donate. You see Jamie Brown and Cats mate up today. Wonderful. If that's true, is that it? Conspiracy Cats goes to try and intimidate Jamie Brown. Picking his targets wisely, isn't he, Mr. Baldy Flaps? Been actively inviting any of these people to meet me in person, to have a reasoned discussion in person, so that there's no online fuckery. Yeah, they seem to be avoiding it like the fucking plague. They quite clearly can see how I interact with people in actual reality when I go to the universities or public arenas. Why are they so scared? That's right, that's because they know that they'll be torn apart immediately. That's a line, there's no way the news wouldn't have covered it by now. Aye, right, Fergus, aye, because the news is objective, isn't it? The mainstream news is objective. I mean, how did I miss that? Oh dear, I've made a mistake. That's right, the TV tells me the truth all the time. So if there's a wrong happening in the world, be sure the news is going to report on it. I know Rickis Vaticus, I gave Jim Panda a wee ribbon about his physicality and he tried to turn into a snowflake and turn it on me. And I just put it to him, I says, well, because you're disabled, you're now, immune to a ribbing. We can't have a jest. I've got loads of disabled friends. Got loads of friends from different races and different whatever's walks of life. They all can take a ribbon. They don't take life too seriously. I have friends in wheelchairs, I have friends all over the place. We just have a laugh about it. Gave him it tight. Told him I was disappointed. You know, his physical stature, I was expecting him to start going, my precious. The curvature is my precious that I can't find. I think he laughed. I think he would have found it funny. Well, at the same time, trying to act like a snowflake. You know? Tried to pull the old, oh, you laughing at a disabled person. Aye, fucking right. I laugh at everything. I laugh at myself, I laugh at my own flaws, everything about myself, so I'm going to laugh at everybody else's. That doesn't mean to say you're a bad person. Because here's the thing, I would be the first one to help you in a real time of need. Because I don't judge people based on what they look like or, you know, their physical stature or any of these things. Doesn't matter to me at all. But it's used against us. Physical appearances and expectation and the norms of what's acceptable and admirable and desirable. I laugh at it. That's what I teach my children. I rub them about absolutely everything so that they get used to it and they realise that they don't need to take themselves seriously, so that the rest of the world can never intimidate them or gaslight them or lower their self-esteem in any way, shape or form. Because they had it at home, they realise there's nothing to be taken seriously in it. So... it's different. You've got people that have got attitudes that think because there's a disabled person that they're somehow better than them because they're no disabled. We're talking about something totally different there, right? Exactly, Starling. Exactly, mate. We're all in it together, right? So, when you're a perfect specimen like me, you've got every right to cast judgment, you know? When you're as perfect as I am, I can look down upon thee and cast my judgments. Until you aspire or even come close to matching my awesomeness, then I shall perceive you as inferior and treat you like a piece of shit in the bottom of my shoe. We're all disabled. Every one of us. Because we don't have a fucking clue what we're a part of here. So, I'm just as disabled as the rest of you. Right? Except we're humble enough to realise that. It's all these pompous fuckers running about. They're all as disabled as the rest of us, but they're fucking running about delusions, thinking that they've got a grasp on stuff. Exactly, Andy Kaufman. Our minds are in wheelchairs indeed. Wheelchairs, fucking straitjackets, blindfolds, you know, fucking anaesthetics, every fucking thing. Shed equals 33, aye. That's right. Ooh, spooky. Aye, being in a wheelchair has its perks, Chris F.E. Jackson, just as you highlighted there. You can get to drive right up to the fucking shops and everything. I mean, no waiting in the fucking queues, no preferential fucking treatment. In fact, I want a campaign against it. I'm feeling oppressed. These wheelchair bastards are getting fucking easy parking spaces. I've got to fucking wait in the queue. I mean, what's that about? Huh? Just because you're in a wheelchair you get fucking preferential treatment? Fuck off. Wait in the queue like the rest of us. Is that Jack Stander? Maybe she's not been disabled, Chris. Maybe she's just got empathy. Maybe she's trying to help you. She's seen a lost cause and she thought she could do something about it. Perks of the job, aye. Charity, aye. Right, let me see here. That person has no showed up, so we'll move on. Tony Carroll, I sent you the link, but you never responded. Paul Jones, just a quick call before you change or forced to change the format. I've been on live with you guys before. If link changes, please keep me in the link to the next platform. Aye, as I say, I'm not going anywhere. It's just that I'm not going to be posting into the chat box. Can't be bothered with disruption. If you want to have a discussion with me, you send me a email. Davey, sorry to hear about your family member. Dale brings things into perspective. I just enjoy the beauty of nature around us, rather than worry about where we are. Maybe we will never know, or maybe when we pass on, we are finally able to access all information and find out the true meaning of life. Just a thought. Well, that's a problem for me, Davey. You know, you enjoy the beauty of nature. That's in the words there. You call it beauty, I call it an abomination. You know, there's aspects of it. As I say, you know, I look at my dog, you know, and I see the sentience there and the love and the warmth that comes from her. But in the circumstances, she would kill, she would hunt, she would eat, she would, whatever she had today, the physicality that wants to keep going would drive her to partake in these behaviours. So, you know, as I say, there's a real duality for me on things that I appreciate and what I value. You know, the physicality and the situation that we're in, what we call nature, is anything but beautiful for me. You know, again, you know, I have to be honest to say maybe that's just from the perspective I'm at right now, because I don't fully understand what it's about. But even at that, what could it possibly be about? Perpetuating suffering? All this talk of surviving and keeping going and keeping going. As I said before, for what? Is there a prize at the end? Is there a set time that we get a prize or something's revealed to us? Is it 2,000 years off? We survive and everyone survives for 2,000 years. It gets this big reward. Because it doesn't matter. So I say the man that I'm watching suffering right now has been a stand-up guy in my life, one of the only men I've ever had respect for and valued. And what I've watched him now have to go through over the last year is, you know, anything but a fucking reward. So, and the true meaning of life, as I say, I struggle with this as well. What is meaning when we talk about meaning? We're talking about something that transcends the experience then, right? Because, you know, meaning for me would just be experience, the experience of life and three-dimensional reality that we call Earth. It's just an experience. When you start saying meaning, then that starts to denote that you're talking about a transcendental thing that transcends the experience, that whatever happens here has some bearing on the bigger picture that encompasses what we call three-dimensional living. I just don't see that. This is what I pointed about with the religious type peoples of the world. They talk about their gods being infinite, eternal, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, all this stuff sees. You know, and even mathematicians talking about eternal and eternity and then trying to place meaning. And I'm like, well, if something's eternal and infinite, it means that all possibility and everything that is already realised exists as one thing all at the same time. There is no way to add, extract, take anything away or change any aspect of it. So, if you're part of the infinite and the eternal and you're in here having a human experience, there is absolutely no way that what you do or what happens in this experience transcends and somehow alters the true reality, the infinite, the eternal, that encompasses and gives rise to this. Used the analogy before, you don't go to a fairground and go on a roller coaster and try and transcend the experience. You're on it for the experience. You start to contemplate these things, it brings in, you know, ideas and concepts of determinism. But we'll not digress into that right now. I'm going to go back into see who's messaged me. Hang on a minute. That's something I want to touch on and talk about in the future again. Right, Scott Walker. Hope you and the family had a peaceful Xmas, big man, and that you keep the chin up regarding your family members. Just a quick question, Dale. Why was the Earth called this name when the most abundant material on it is 3/4 water? Just a thought you may be able to expand on, Dale. I think it's just because as human beings we live upon the land. That would be my guess. And my chin's up, mate. I'm no sad, I'm no down. You know, I deal with these things, as I say. All it did is put things in perspective. You know, what it does is it always brings back the realisation of your own mortality, because it's very easy to forget about that, especially when you're fit and you're younger. But when you see somebody who you looked up to and respected as a strong, you know, fit man, them being in that position, it just rams it home for me, you know. That it's going to come to us all, and I just have a concern about the circumstances, you know, but that's about it. I'm not down and sad about it. Again, I just treat it like everything else. I don't really take it that seriously, particularly death. I've never taken death seriously at all. I've never understood why human beings have a relationship to death the way they have. Again, if we don't really know what happens at death, you have to ask the questions. What drives these narratives of death and how we treat it? Why do we have a culture that treats death as this morbid, dreary depression? We're black, we're out the pissing rain with brollies, trying to look all solemn and hurted, standing around a wooden box with somebody that's not there anymore, going into the grun and the worms are going to eat them, and it's so sad and it's so terrified, Even if we don't fucking know, right? Let's just make up something that's bright, at least for the fucking children, Let's teach them to have a relationship with it that's just that, fuck it, whatever. Don't get it. Well, I do get it. For me, it's part of the agenda. It pushes that fucking, what's the word? Bewildering, powerless, fucking scared position. Oh, it's a wee delicate potato rock. Life's so valuable and precious. I need to cling to it and fear death at all costs, because the whole problem is we've got to survive. The game is live as long as you can. Of course it is, Scott Walker. That's what I've spoken about the whole process. Knowing the self is the most important tool an individual can possess. Exactly. So if you're aware of your own being, you're aware of what influences you, what you succumb to, what your biases are, if you have any, you can eradicate them, you can, remove the concepts that you've placed upon yourself that are now, restricting and, editing your own behaviour and internal dialogue. You can get rid of them. Because they're not yours. You've just adopted them through the stimulus that was, around you as you were born and growing up. Cheers, Scott. I'll not read that since you said it's private. Appreciated, Scott. Cheers for that, mate. No thank you, Russian Vids. You have nothing to offer anybody here whatsoever. I'll not be partaking in discussing anything with you. You're an agent of propaganda, a liar and a deceiver. You're not a man of Christian values. You're the total opposite, son. So you can jog on. That's it, it's the give you a wee idea of what's going on. Your family member's 83, he's still quite fit in body, but he's his pneumonia now, and it's went into both lungs. So there's a couple of things that he could go through. Well, one of the things may be that if he goes onto the ventilator machine, he's going to become dependent on it and probably never get off it, which means he's going to have care quite a lot of the time. I can see the struggle with him. He's caught between this aspirations of still wanting to do things in life, and at the same time, not having much quality of life and burdening other people. Not only burdening other people, but his own self-respect and his own independence, his individuality, now coming to a point of dependency. And I can really see that there's a real struggle internally with that, and it's heartbreaking, as I say, because when you know a man that's been independent, that can do anything that he needs to for himself and doesn't depend on anybody, and then all of a sudden to be thrown into this situation, really quickly, it's heartbreaking for him, based on that internal struggle. So it's a struggle for me as well. There's parts of me that thinks, there's no quality of life now. And I understand that he's going to have that internal struggle. So for me, it's like I would just rather that he went quickly, rather than prolonging this suffering, under these mantras of surviving and fear of death and the unknown, and that there's these whole internal struggle going on that I can understand. That's the hard bit for me. That's the hard bit for him. I'm sure it's the hard bit for many other people who have been in the very same position. But and it's that whole thing about the ego. He's got those pride issues there again, and it's like, so trying to say to them, look, your pride's never going to be in question, because what you represented as a man in your prime and your fitness, that's never going to be brought into question. just because you need help, yada yada, run about the house and to look after yourself, doesn't detract from the pride that he should have as the man that he is and that he stood for, But you see again the ego, the internal struggle with that, and it's sore, This is what I'm saying again about this position we find ourselves in. It is a fucking abomination. They messed about with the live stream, are they? How can you be talking to Twitwit when I can't see it beyond belief? This is another problem with this fucking YouTube. There's so much ghosting going on and fake accounts and fuck knows. That's why, again, I pay very little attention to comment sections or chat boxes anymore, because you just don't know who's who. There's that many gimps out there with fucking endless amounts of accounts, and I just don't get it. See, before, I couldn't maintain the concentration to flip between different accounts and remember passwords and all this fucking crap. These people, you have to have some real incentive. I have problems with that as well, Clever Cat. It's not just about, rulers and what society offers up in regards to ideas and expectations and the standards of norms. It's, if I start to look at this reality as being some sort of deterministic type of reality where, what we call the laws of nature, objective reality, are fixed, they're determined. It's the same with the physical machine, the biological machine that you call the body. It has deterministic factors as well. What we have to start looking at is what aspects of us are we calling our consciousness or our free will or whatever. Is it really free? Is it still subject to some deterministic program that's out with the programs of men, human beings? Are we part of some bigger mechanism that is a deterministic type experience? And we just think that we're making, free will type choices, Well, look at the body. It makes decisions. It has things going on that's no of your volition. There's certain impulses that happen that are no of your volition. You act upon them, but they're no from you. They're no formulated out of your free will choice. Not that I'm saying there isn't an aspect of free will, but there's definitely, for me, as I spoke about before, there is, I lean towards some form of duality here. And it's a matter of trying to understand how that works, because there is a deterministic aspect of physicality, and then there is the, maybe the undetermined aspect of metaphysics, that being your consciousness, your internal subjectivity. So, one of the reasons, I talk, there's certain philosophical notions of us being automatons, that everything, consciousness is a epiphenomenon, something that comes from material processes, and it's not the opposite way where, an idealist will probably think that mind is before matter and mind somehow drives matter and brought it into existence. I forget what I was going to say about that. Fuck, it's gone. I might come back to it. I forget. It was about the duality thing. I think, it's always the dichotomy again. You're either an idealist or you're a materialist. And I'm like, well, can we not have both? There's some sort of merging of both, and we can identify the relationships. As I was saying, that's what I was going to say about the kind of materialistic, philosophies of us being automatons. Now, when I look at a machine, when I construct or design or build a machine, and I switch that machine on, that machine, you know, fulfills the tasks that it was designated to do. There's no aspect of that machine that has a process of internal learning about its own faculties. You know, a machine doesn't have an awareness to go, oh, well, I need to learn how to use this fucking pneumatic arm in order to reach out for that object that I see there, and then, you know, there's none of that. Whereas human beings, when you look at us, there's a physicality, but then there's this dual aspect where there's this entity inside that's learning the functions of the physicality and learning how to use it. You watch a child, it's continually learning how to use the machine, right? Now, and it has that understanding internally, it realises that it's learning, right? Does a machine have that? No, it doesn't. An automaton machine has no process of understanding or learning about its own faculties, its own, you know, makeup, its own behaviours. Whereas human beings, we do have that. So there, just in that wee, you know, observation lends to some form of duality. There's a merging of, you know, physicality, biological living machine, and an entity of consciousness or awareness. If we were just automatons, there would be no necessity for us to learn how to use the body. You wouldn't have that experience. I'm missing what's going on in the chat here. Who are we asking? Where's the practical example of a pulling force creating motion and acceleration though? Who are we asking that to? Who's asserting pulley forces? That's a problem, Barbara McGill. You know, when you look at evolutionists and these materialists, there's no accountability. There is no room for free will. So, you know, a materialist, evolutionist type guy that looks at me and says, oh, you're a moron talking about flat earth. Well, I'm a product of, you know, random processes gone by that have resulted in what you see represented before you. So what are you going to say to that? This is their problem. This is where their reasoning just falls apart. How can you have accountability to a machine? How can a machine be accountable for anything? Sorry, Barbara, I'm missing the strand of what you're talking about now. Yes, but doesn't that tie into beliefs somewhere? Beliefs about what? We're talking about metaphysics like consciousness and these things. They're just subjective. You know, there's no claims being made to, you know, what I said. I don't know what it is. I don't know what we are. I'm just looking at scenarios and trying to find contradictions or, you know, where things may point to. If one doesn't hold beliefs, what does he hold? Is it opinions, views and convictions? Well, you have to categorise what you're talking about. If one doesn't hold beliefs in regards to what, be specific. I don't have to hold beliefs in regards to objectivity. As I says to you, there's deterministic factors of objective reality. If I breathe underwater, I'm going to fucking drown. No belief required. If I walk in front of a 200 mile an hour, 40,000 tonne train, I'm going to be turned into flying mince. So it depends what you mean. You have to be specific. Well, you don't have to. That's what I'm saying. When people are talking about beliefs and all these things, it's all jumbled up. Things have to be separated what we're talking about. We're talking about objectivity, i.e. the deterministic laws of nature, physicality. Belief is not required in any way, shape or form. None whatsoever. A baby that's newborn doesn't have to have any perception or belief of the physical world that it's existing in. It's still going to be subject to the deterministic laws of that physicality. So if you drop a baby from a great height, or you put it underwater, or any of these things, there's going to be a, you know, cause and effect relationship. We start entering into the realms of idea, concept, in regards to subjectivity, metaphysics, then it's all about beliefs. And again, I see no reason to hold any beliefs about any of these things. I can entertain ideas, notions, concepts, I can look at them, I can perceive them, but I do never do I incorporate them into the structure of my being as anything of relevance whatsoever. They remain out there. Send me an email, Barbara, and we can have the discussion right now. While we're on it, you might as well just talk about it just now. Right, Levi Foster, the majority of people are get multiple personalities because they show a face depending on what circumstance and environment they're in. They adapt to it. Totally agree, Sadie. Okay, Archie. Where there are beliefs, the search for truth ceases. It's a non-human Eve. There's a deterministic component to nature and a free will component to the objective laws of nature, or the limit of free will. There's a deterministic component to nature, exactly, objective reality. There's a deterministic, point to that, as I've just put it there. And a free will component. The objective laws of nature are the limit of free will. Well, again, it's such a murky, complex discussion. Free will. As I say, I'm always up for discussing these things, and that's why I say, for topics of interest, then you need to send me an email. Different ways of looking at things all the time. Me and Marty were having a discussion. I'm going to be doing a lot of that in the future again. Getting back to me and Marty having some discussions and sticking them up here. We were talking about sleeping again, and Marty was saying, he was thinking about, they talk about when we sleep, it's so that we can get, energised again and, wake up the next day and we're energised. And Marty thought about it in a different form. What if it's no? What if it's to diffuse a energy build up? What if when we sleep, it's a process of removing the build up of energy, whatever it may be, and that's what's happening when we sleep. And that's why when we wake up we feel refreshed, because we're not bogged down and heavied by the energetic build up that we've built up through the day. To say, all these things are up there, possibilities, because we don't really know. Now, we know if you don't sleep, things are going to happen, but what we're talking about is the assumption that when we sleep, it's to gather energy again, or to recuperate. But what I'm saying is, it's like, if you build up a static energy or something like that, you have to diffuse it, you have to get rid of it, and maybe that's what sleeping's about. Thinking I like Matthew. It's the same as any machine or system. If you overload it, you don't discharge the build-up, then it's going to have problems. So you could just reverse it, in regards to the sleep experiments. Maybe that's what's happening. There's too much build-up, and sleeping diffuses it somehow. So, all these, as I said before, and I've said it so many times, all these philosophies, religions, ideas of our existence, subjectivity, consciousness, methods of living, society, structures, they're all just substitutes. It's just all bollocks. Life is but a dream. Yeah. Life certainly is not the true reality. What we're experiencing right now is a construct within the true reality, whatever that may be. So again, when people talk about nature, the natural world, yada yada, then it's a construct. So what are you talking about? Where's your reference frame for natural? Because it's a construct that exists within a bigger environment. So it's the bigger environment that is the true reality. This very well may just be a dream. May just be a big virtual reality technology. We're all in here trying to figure it out. Oh, it's all scary, we're all scared, and we need to pin it down to be something certain with some mad hat idea about what it is, and then moderate our behaviours to align with that mad hat idea of a conceptual transcendental meaning and purpose, that rubbish. Live life and learn. Learn what? I keep asking that question. When people talk about learning, they're talking about the circumstances of their culture, society, social interactions, other people, yada yada, and you learn about that because you're within it. So you learn the pitfalls, you learn what to look for, you learn how to find a place within it that suits yourself. But what about the people that are born in desert islands away from all this? What if you're isolated as a one person on a desert island? What are you learning? Learning how to catch fish. Learn how to get coconuts off the tree. Then what? What happens when you've learned all that? Is that it? We're back to that again. But when you die, you're going to... So the guy that lives in the desert island, when he dies, his purpose was to learn how to catch fish and get coconuts off the tree and how to process it, so that when he dies and he goes to the next dimension, he can pass on that knowledge or utilise it somehow. I mean, what? Really? Please get at Flat Earth Fokker. He's been asking respectfully, mate. Asking respectfully for what? Flat Earth Fokker hasn't asked me for anything. He sent an email. Oh. Search Flat Earth Clues on YouTube. It's not a very good way to start. I'll send you an email, see what you've got to say. I always take time out and love and enjoy my family Spanish chicken. You're not reading anything by me going like that and wiping my face. I mean, I don't know who you're watching on YouTube's that's telling you that. It's warm in here, I'm kind of sweaty, so I'm having to wipe the sweat away. Hello.
Hey, Del.
How's it going?
Happy holidays. All the best in 2020.
So all that means.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta change my signature. Sorry, I don't know if my voice is spiking too much here. Yeah, I gotta change my signature there, research ladder, on the email that's been there for a couple of years. So
Aye, no worries.
thanks for reminding me. I should change that to something else.
No worries.
Um, what was I gonna? I just called in. I think Fancy Man wanted me to call in talk about the Mandela effect. I don't know if you were Mandela affected or what your thoughts are on that, or we can
That
change it to a different topic.
means nothing to me, mate. It's just all titillation of rubbish, to be honest with you.
So you think so, eh?
I just don't know what the relevance is. If somebody can point to me the relevance of Mandela effects and its implications, then I understand. Things are changing, but why is it always obscure things like fucking TV programs names and shit like that? I mean, is that it?
Well, TV programs, movie titles, songs, that's a small part. I mean, our anatomy has changed, geography has changed.
What do you mean? What do you mean our anatomy?
Well, you remember in the skull, as we were growing up, like if you look at a picture of like a human skull, there was a hole where the eyeballs are, and then you could see to the back of the skull. And that's what I learned, and that's what the medical community and autopsies and surgeries, all of that. That's how our body was. That's one of the anatomy changes. Was there's a hole where the eye is, and then right to the back of the skull. And I used to wonder always, how does the eyeball sit there? It's just sitting on tissues in front of the brain, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now there's a cave. There's a bone behind where the eyeball would be. Like you can Google images and see if you're affected by this change, if you remember it differently or not. There's a bone behind, in the skull where the eyeball would sit.
But I've never in my life have I ever removed my eyeballs. So
no, we don't remove our eyeballs physically. I'm talking about what's behind the flesh.
but how would I have known unless I removed my eyeballs at some earlier date and then removed them again at a later date to go, oh look, there's a bone there now.
Well, no, we've never done it, but we saw real skulls growing up. Like especially if you took some sort of biology class or even studied anything along the lines like simple science class or seen images, like the skull had nothing behind the eyeball. And of course, we're not going to do it when we're alive. I'm talking about corpses or real human skeletals after the fact.
Right.
Now somehow, well, I'm affected by this change because that's what I learned, and I used to wonder, and I have a clear memory that there was no bone behind the eyeball when we would look at that. And the thing is, we could say these changes were kind of put in. Now they're changing images. Well, that takes away from the fact that there were real skulls of the human body, and somewhere along the line, people, the medical profession, etc., somewhere along the way, we're in a body now with a bone behind the eyeball.
Right. So
now, you can't change that like a movie title or a song name. So I understand many things in the Mandela effect are like, oh well, it could be changed. It's not relevant. Things are changing.
So if I just lend you that it's a given because I've not looked at it right. What I would then be looking at is the relevance and what it would actually mean. So are you saying then that there's an update of the computer program that's changing physicality? Or something like that. That's your kind of thinking processes. I mean, I don't know the relevance of this.
Yeah, well, that's what we're trying to figure out. Those of us that are Mandela affected, because again, it's going to be speculation on my part. I mean, I could guess many different things on what's happening, but what I speculate, I'll just that's for me, right? I'm just trying to figure out what happened in this world, what kind of shift happened. I don't want to say it's simulation or who's doing this, but for me, there's definite shift that happened.
Mm. But if I lend my attention to things like that, need disrespect, Matt, because you can look at whatever you like. But for me, it doesn't take me anywhere. It just takes me into an avenue of a cul-de-sac and guesswork and possibilities. And I've done all that. I can go, well, Well, if that was the case, if there's a Mandela type effect, then is it the software being updated from out with this experience that we call life? And if that was the case, then it's still irrelevant to me because I'm never going to be out with the reality that I exist within in order to understand that while I'm a part of it.
I see what you're saying. For me, it's kind of like changed the direction of like what life might be about. Like if like my soul or whatever, this reality is more fluid, it's kind of, it's put me in limbo a little bit, but it kind of makes me look at life a different way. Yeah, on the day to day, I still got to work. We have, I agree with you. How does it affect my life? But in a sense,
No. I don't mean how does it affect your life. I'm talking about in relevance to my pursuit of a further understanding of what I'm a part of here. How far does it actually go? For me, that's the point. I can see it and I could entertain it and say, okay, right, if I lend some credence to a Mandela type effect, right, then I come to the point of guesswork about what it's about and why.
Yeah, for me, it's like I think it's God testing me or creator or something's testing us to see if we have resolve and conviction in what we remember, how we remember things, rather than, for me, it's like, should I blow it off that, hey, I learned Dilemma, my number one, my Mandela effect had an N in it. Now you can't find, I can look at books from 40 years ago that I probably, there was an N in Dilemma, but apparently in this reality, it's never existed, and I'm not going to find it unless I find some kind of residue.
But that's
kind of a.
But that's the part I have problems, Matt. This mystical God. He's got the ability to create fucking worlds and complexity of life, but somehow he wants to fuck about with us and test our memory by changing the fucking bone structures of your skull and changing your favourite TV programmes, title. I mean, that's just bizarre.
It is. It is bizarre. It's
bizarre.
Confusing, Del.
It's just bizarre to me that you would think that that's what was going on.
Well, it's one theory I have. It's one theory. Like, if I'm going to look at the positive of the Mandela effect, then I have to say it could be God testing me to see if I have eyes to see and who has eyes to see.
But Mike, let me reason with you. If God was testing you, right, what's he testing you for? Do you understand, Mac? Right, if you're somebody, I take it you ascribe to a God type notion, right? So is this God of yours is he eternal and infinite?
For me, yes, yeah.
Right, so here we have the problem. If he's eternal and infinite, then he's unchanging, right? Which means that how can anything that happens in here in the experience that you call life transcend this to somehow alter or change that infinite and eternal?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
If you postulate that your God belief is of an infinite and eternal being that encompasses everything that we know and gives rise to it, then how could it be possible that anything that happens here within this construct transcend the construct and somehow change or alter that infinite and eternal? What would be the point of tests? Because it's unchanging.
No, but it is. I think things are changing.
Yeah, here, within this construct, things change and move on. But what I'm saying to you is if encompassing that as the infinite and the eternal, then nothing that happens within the construct can transcend the construct and somehow change by adding or taking away something from that already existing infinite and eternal. So there wouldn't be any tests because there would be no use for a test, because a test denotes that you're going to have some outcome that changes something.
Well, that's probably going to be in the afterlife, I think.
But
this physical existence is just kind of like, okay, I'm here for 50, 60, 70, whatever years. Do I see what's happening in this world? And then in the afterlife, if I choose to believe in the afterlife, that's where I'm going to find out if I pass certain tests, I guess.
But the
And
afterlife notion would have to be some finite thing again that changes and alters. What I'm trying to help you to understand, mate, is if you believe in an infinite, eternal thing, right? That means that it always has been, it always will be. You can't create it, you can't destroy it. It only moves in and out of form, right? That means that nothing that you have as an experience will ever transcend the experience to add or take something away from that pre-existing infinite and eternal. Because if you could, then it would be finite, it wouldn't be infinite and eternal.
I see what you're saying. I'm just thinking, like, within this construct, within this physical form that I'm inhabiting for my lifetime.
Well, in the physical, in this place, things do change, appear to change and adapt, right? That's fine. But when we start talking about metaphysical, encompassing environments of infinite and eternal beings, that falls apart when you try to transcend the experience into that place where you would change and alter some aspect there. Because if it's infinite and eternal, there's nothing that you can do here that's not already been possible. That thing gave rise to every possibility.
Well, I think we get lost in this physical existence, right? Like, we go through different experiences in our youth and indulgence and different experiences.
Yep.
And maybe we live this physical experience incorrectly. I think this is kind of helping me understand that it's more spiritual.
But that's presupposing again that you're here for some lesson, which again denotes that you would somehow be changing that infinite and eternal. But you're saying it in your sentences. Why can people never just be content with its only experience? There is no ultimate meaning that transcends the experience. So anything can happen in here. It's only an experience and it's meaningless to the bigger picture.
Well, I agree with you there. And that's why it's personal, right? And I don't force the Mandela effect on anybody. And you've got, your what you just said there, and I think we're all on a different journey.
Well, that's
different understanding.
But I'm trying. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to kind of understand, and the image that comes to my mind when we talk about the Mandela effect, just as a postulation, is like, you've seen the movie The Matrix.
Yes.
So, when they have the kind of reset and the cat, the image that comes to me is the bit where the cat gets back up and it starts to walk again or something like that. So you could look at that and say, well, that's a Mandela effect because the software was updated.
Yeah.
Right. That's fine. I can get on board with some kind of concept like that. But the problem that I have is that it's all happening because us as the beings are supposed to learn, or we're being tested, or this, that and the other, because that then denotes that your experience is going to transcend the experience and has some, meaning out with of the experience. But that's an impossibility. Because if you're part of the infinite and eternal that gave rise to your experience, that you can't change it, you can't add anything, you can't take anything away. So why would you then think there's some sort of test for you to partake in?
Well, because it's with this physical existence, it just becomes, for me, it's just existing. It's just being born, living, eating, shitting, dying, and then you die.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not much purpose to life. Right?
No, but Mac, that's your problem. You're trying to place purpose on it, rather than it just being the experience of being a human, eating, shitting, hurting, feeling. That's it. It ends there.
I get that. But something deep inside of us, I guess there has to be something more. Like, I do believe in experiencing life. Like, I skydive. Like, I want to go skiing and travel and experience this physical world and enjoy this physical world. But it's kind of like, do I do cocaine and fuck hookers all the time and do these kind of things, or you know, or do I have some kind of morality and understand like what we're gonna experience in life,
But
right?
that's
Like there's
that.
so much experience,
But that.
good and bad.
But that comes to subjectivity then. That's the problem. Because that's your internal reflection of your essence and what you want to partake in based on your own internal reflection. So you're the one that decides morality, you're the one that decides good and bad in regards to the scenarios that you just expressed. They're just
Well,
possibilities. It's when you start placing transcendental right and wrong on them that I start to have an issue with it.
Well, like I said, I don't force it on anybody. Like I think as long as we don't hurt other people and live our life, I'm in agreement with that. And we may go down some paths in life that aren't fruitful or beneficial to us, and then we take another fork in the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, I agree with you, but I think each one of us has to decide for ourselves what we do is right or wrong. And what I feel is right, you may feel is wrong.
So do you think that there's a reward system then when you leave this, that your behaviour will be judged in comparison to somebody else's behaviour, and there's a demerit and award system type thing, you know?
Well, I mean, could be something similar to that. I don't know if I'll be judged against someone else. I think it's all individual. I personally think that, hey, we came here, like my soul came here to experience this world, forgot everything about the spiritual realm, and now we're in a physical body, and you know, there's indulgences, etc., that we're tempted with. And then it's how do I live my life? How do I treat other people? What kind of integrity and morality do I carry myself in and my actions?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is for me. And
Yeah.
then, you know,
That's
I
right.
have people in life always challenging me, like especially the last 2 months, I'm dealing with people that are completely unscrupulous, you know, and unethical in terms of like finances that I've been challenged with the last 2 months.
But there's the problem right there, Mac. You must be able to see that this infinite eternal God figure gave rise to them as well.
Exactly.
Right, so what you have to do for me is reason with that and accept that that's what you're a part of, rather than trying to, you know, categorise things in regards to competition. Like, you know, that's wrong, you're right, this is the way we should live, this is the way we shouldn't live, yada yada. For me, it's like I accept all aspects of the experience, and that all I can do is identify myself. And then, you know, partake in whatever I consciously choose to partake in. No because of fear of being judged when I leave this experience or any of that stuff. Just based upon the true essence of myself, being true to myself and what I self-reflect in. But that doesn't mean to say that I think that it's some spiritual thing that I'm here to learn or realise, or that I'm going to be judged on, or I'm going to, you know, progress to the next level, or any of this type of thinking. That's where I have a problem with it, because it's self-defeating. If you're part of the eternal and the infinite, that means you cannot add anything or take anything away from it. Then it doesn't matter what you get up to here.
Well, I see where you're coming from, but can we agree to disagree?
Well, of course, because we don't know the objective truth of the reality. I'm just trying to reason with you, you know, what you're offering me, that's all. It's not an attack, it's no any of these types of things. I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from and highlight, you know, some of the contradictions that I find in that line of reasoning.
Yeah, you know, I'm just sharing my experiences, and then it's kind of like other people can take these experiences and do what they want with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what life's about, right? We've both encountered many people in our lives, and it's the experiences. Some taught us good lessons, and some taught us bad lessons, and some, you know, we just learn from each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's so many lessons depending on circumstance, but as I say, the man that's born on a desert island has a total different experience from you. What lessons is he learning?
Exactly.
So this is the point. You know, for me, it's about accepting the spectrum of everything that exists, and not trying to categorise it or pigeonhole it or control it or any of these things. The only thing you can do is identify you and make your own active choices and participations. See, this is the thing, Mac, for me, it's like these things have been titled as satanic when you say, look, the observation for me is that this reality shows me that it's do as thou wilt. What you experience is that there's beings here doing what they will in accordance with their essence. So you can look at a tyrant dictator and you can pass judgment based on your internal reflection and say, he's evil, he's wrong, he's bad. What I see is a human being adopting the tools that he's here with. The tools that you're here with is your will. You can align with your will, you can focus your will, you can take steps and measures in order to achieve your desired effect. And that's what this reality is showing me. It's like a canvas for you to paint any picture you decide. That doesn't mean to say you turn your attention to whatever picture somebody else is painting and start casting judgment on it. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense.
So,
Yeah.
so if a psychopath was sitting next to me that embraced himself and was, outwardly upfront about his own internal being and says, look, I'm a fucking psychopath, I'm this, that, I'm the other. I have clarity there. I have security there, because that person's communicating clearly with me, concise, and then I know exactly where I am. I don't then try and control him or pass judgment or whatever. The only thing I can do is move myself into positions that I align with, that I prefer, and that I want to put my attention to.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So,
And I
think
sometimes in our interactions in this world, people come along that detract or are obstacles in what we're trying to create in our life, instead of like my intention and my focus towards, right?
But do you think that they're set there by some overseer that's sticking obstacles in your way, or do you think that these obstacles that are in your way are just random aspects of the possibilities within the environment?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't have an answer for that right now.
I don't either, mate. And at the same time, I talk about these things. I've experienced kind of synchronistic type events in my life, where I think, God, the circumstances of that and how it came about seem a wee bit kind of synchronistic, almost like they were already predetermined to happen.
You think they're predetermined?
Well, this is the problem we have, mate. It's it's like, if I know the laws of nature are determined and that physicality is a deterministic type program, if you like, then I have to start looking at it in every other aspect. My experiences, the people that come into my life, the obstacles, as you say, are these things just random happenings of circumstance, or were they already predetermined? Like your life's laid out like a computer program, and you're just, like when you're on the roller coaster, you can look left, right, up and down. You can tell yourself whatever you like about it, but at no point can you dictate what direction that roller coaster is going to go in.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, I think we have some control.
Well, I don't have any clarity or certainty to make that statement, mate. I'm still asking the questions, and that's what I'm offering to you. It's just like never get stuck in thinking you've got a grasp. Always try and contradict your assumptions and break them apart so that you can have a further clarity or a wider understanding.
Oh, that's what I try to do, man. Like, I'm not the person I was a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. Everything keeps, my understanding keeps changing. What I thought 5 years, 10 years ago, I'm complete 180 from that line of thinking.
And that's it.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and if we're eternal souls, then experience here of this life, right? When we leave this life, we leave this life here. That was that experience. Now, trying to maintain a memory of that life to carry on to the next would defeat the next experience. So memory and people trying to maintain memory that transcends the life once they die is a sign to me of insecurity and weakness. Because what you're trying to do is keep tabs on every aspect of every experience you're ever going to have. And if you're part of the infinite and the eternal, which means there is no end to it, what's the point of trying to maintain memory from each experience to the next? It's no use to you, because you're never going to get a full picture of what you've been a part of if you're part of the infinite and the eternal, because it's an impossibility to lock it down into some geometric block that you can look at and understand fully. Because if you could, you would be talking about something finite again.
Hmm. Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Cool.
For me, it's kind of like mind blowing. So, like this physical, like things just change. Like it seems like I'm in a different world. I think there's questions I need to ask about why this is happening, and
Of course.
what I'm supposed to do with this information, and that's what I'm doing. We're questioning.
Exactly,
some of
mate.
us are,
That's
and
what I've always
figuring out.
said, mate. It's like none of us have the book to understand, what's going on here. I'm just the same as you. I'm just asking questions. I'm making no assumptions. I'm not trying to discover some, bias to reaffirm to myself. I'm just constantly asking questions, constantly looking for contradictions and, things that I can break so that I can find, what the actual truth is. But, for me, the position that I'm in right now, it's like, well, I'm within the physical construct. I'm never going to be out with the physical construct. So if I want to further understand what I'm a part of here, I have to explore the physical construct, because that for me is the keys to getting a piece of the puzzle for the bigger picture. Does that make
Well,
sense?
that does make sense, and that's what I was doing until I realized the physical construct is fluid and changing.
Is it?
It is.
Well,
So
it's
let's
not.
look at, like, okay, we got the anatomy changing, but then you got geography changing. Like land masses have completely moved,
Mhm.
and then you're like, okay, well, I'll give you an example. I don't know if you remember where Sri Lanka used to be. It was at the south, below the southern tip of India.
Yeah.
And then, people would fly down there, ships would sail north, south to get Sri Lanka. Now
But
Sri Lanka has moved and has apparently always been slightly east of the southern tip of India, and it's moved north and east. And it's like, okay, so what happened to all the people that were sailing north to south? Because the maps were accurate back then. And everybody thought Sri Lanka was south of India, and they would sail a ship north south. And now they're going east west from the southern part of India. So it's kind of like, but nobody else notices. Like, what happened to all these captains
I
and the sailors
so
that
so
used
so
to take this
the,
journey?
the,
So the physical reality is fluid.
no, to clarify, the circumstances within the physical reality can change and adapt. I agree, but the laws of nature, the deterministic aspects of the laws of what we call nature, are no fluid. They're no changing. If you get hit by a 200 mile an hour, 40,000 ton train, you're going to be mince, right? If you breathe underwater, you're going to drown. They're no fluid changing. They're rigid and they're structured. So
Yeah,
the
that's
circumstances within it can maybe adapt and change, and things can happen. But what I'm talking about is the deterministic aspects of the laws of nature. The interaction of substances and the cause and effect relationships. That's no changing. That's not a fluid that's changing.
no, I can agree with that.
Right. So that's
It
just
just it just adds something else. Like, I think if we notice something, like, we have to question. Like, you know what I mean? I discounted these changes for 2 years because I didn't understand them. But when I fully understood that things had changed, I should be questioning, like, what happened before I move beyond that, right? Like, I don't think I should ignore it and then move past it. And that's like anything in life. Like, we should learn from certain interactions, like whether I have a negative or a positive experience or an interaction with someone. I should learn about what, like, mistakes I did, what I said that was incorrect, that caused a negative outcome in a situation.
But that's you as you and your individuality. When you use words like should, we have to be careful of that, because you're
Yeah,
using
for
that word
me,
like
yeah,
should,
yeah,
as in
yeah.
like spreading it to the rest of the populace. This is how they should behave. This is how they should, partake in their experience of reality. That's where I see the problem. That's what you're doing, Mac, is that you're the one that's telling yourself these things. You're the one that's saying, I should. So you have to look at the mind construct that you've created for yourself, because that's what's moderating your behaviour. It's you're doing. You know, when we say should, when I say, oh, I should do this, I should do that, I'm not meaning like that's what everybody should do.
Yeah, no.
So, you know, we're subject to what we put our attention to. If you buy into certain constructs, certain expectations, certain religious doctrines of behaviour modifications and these things, you have to analyse where you've implemented that mind construct and now you're now subject to it. Because you done it. Nobody made that happen. And because it feels like that, it feels like it's something that transcends you, that it's something objective when it's no. You created it, you've walked into it, you're now moderating and subjecting yourself to the construct, the idea, the concept that you took on board. As I say, a psychopath doesn't think the same as you. A psychopath just thinks, how can I get the upper hand to get what I need for my own benefit here? Regardless empathy or compassion towards the other humans that it's interacting with. Still there? I don't know what's happened, but we've lost Mac. I can see the icon still there, but there's no sound, mate. So, but listen, I appreciate you, Mac, for coming on and having that wee discussion. I'll go to the emails and see if anybody else has emailed me. But I appreciate you coming on and having the chat, mate. Right. Deja Vu, Hudson Chalk's asking me. I spoke about that before, haven't I? You know, a wee, how do I word this? If, you know, my postulation was that if you are internally the conscious observer of, you know, some sort of projected reality that you're experiencing, then the reality is happening, and there's it's like if you've got a projector screen here and you've got a projector there and you're the observer here, right? You look at the screen there and you see what's being projected onto the screen. But, you know, what if you start looking up the way and back at the projector and you start to see what's coming onto the screen, coming from the projector to the screen, and then you turn your attention to the screen, you see it happening and manifesting. Well, what if deja vu is something like that? You're somehow getting a wee visual insight to the manifestation just before it happens. And then as it manifests and happens, there's a familiarity and you go, oh, I've been here, I know this. Just a thought, I mean, I don't fucking know. Joe O'Brien, hi there. Just wanted to say that your content has helped me to discern objectivity and see through the bullshit that is put into our minds from a young age. Share a lot of the same views as yourself about this place we are stuck in, and like yourself, I would love to know where I am and what this fucking place really is. To me, it's hugely important to know more about ourselves and where we are. I agree that we need exploration to try find some real answers and hopefully start to put some pieces together about our true reality. Thanks for all the great content, man. I appreciate how much it has helped me as I broke out of the globe trance. Cheers, Joe. Appreciated. And that's it, Joe. There's that outward, you know, exploration of the objective reality, and there's also the internal exploration, as I was saying before. You know, understanding yourself, understanding how this mechanism of the machine works, what you're taking on board, and how you're implementing it to then become subject to it. You know. I've got an echo, right? Barbara, you want a link? Teddy boy, I'll read yours once I've sent this to Barbara. Barbara, if you hear this, I'm just going to nick to the toilet, so I'll not be here when you arrive in, but I'll be back in 2 minutes. Right, where are we here? Did I send the link? I did. It's the same link, isn't it? What's happening? People in the chat box. I had a good time. I always have a good time with the family. I don't need some arbitrary, abstract date. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
You alright?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad.
Yeah. I think RV is in your chat, my friend.
Couldn't care less.
Yeah, he's trying to discourage me from joining.
Alright.
Trying to trying to put fear in me. But what I was saying earlier, if I may ask about like beliefs and possibly how that ties into intellectual honesty. So like if you don't believe in anything, then maybe you have opinions or ideas, or I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not answering for you. I'm just saying that, like,
That's what I was trying to ask you. You know, if you could, well, where would there be a necessity for me to have a belief? Where would I need to apply a belief to something?
I'm not sure it's necessary. However, I feel like people do it instinctively. It's like it just happens. And then some of this trickles down into their opinions about life and what's happening and
Oh,
where
of course.
to live. I mean, what I'm saying is I don't think it's purposeful. And although I understand the difference between objective and subjective, I have to ask myself if sometimes the beliefs affect the objective, not on purpose, and then we're saying people are intellectually dishonest.
I don't know. I'm trying to get clarity on your point, Barbara. I'm struggling to understand what it is you're saying. Is it? I mean, you know, people have beliefs that moderate and affect their behaviour or their perceptions. Is that what you mean?
I mean, yes.
Yeah, of course. People have all sorts of crazy beliefs about themselves internally, about the world around them, about other people, and that can then affect their experience of those things because you know yourself, if you've got a belief or a preconceived notion of a particular person for whatever reason, you know, maybe you've not done this, but I've certainly experienced it in my life where there's a preconception of somebody and then they're in my company, and based on the preconceived notions and ideas that I had, I never really experienced them for what they were offering me right there and then because I'm continually editing it based on my expectation of my presupposition. So
Yeah.
so that's what I'm saying. You have to be very cautious not to have assumptions, beliefs, preconceptions about anything because it can affect and sway your experience of what it actually is.
Yeah, and I know that's what you've been saying forever, and that's why I kind of sit in the background and I keep quiet. However, I have to wonder if, like, sometimes that happens where beliefs trickle into the objective reality, not on purpose, but just because it happens. And then
I don't know.
next.
That's what I'm trying to get clarity. I don't know what that means. So, you know, the objective reality is not going to change based on my beliefs or anybody else's beliefs.
It could change the way you look for your objective reality.
But that's what I'm saying. You know, no matter how much you focus your intent or your beliefs into believing that if a steam locomotive hits you at 200 miles an hour, that you're not going to turn into mince. I mean, I don't think there's a point where you could ever, you know, believe enough to change reality so that when the train hits you, you turn into, you know, liquid and formulate yourself back as a human being again. I mean, I'm struggling to understand what you mean.
Yeah, I just have a little difficulty with, like, sometimes certain people that you say are intellectually dishonest.
Right. Well, just clarify that. Go straight to that point instead of, you know, skirting about it. Just say exactly what it is you mean. Like, could you?
I mean, I've said exactly what it is I mean. I'm saying that some people are not descriptively intellectually dishonest based on what they perceive as their reality.
But it is a form of intellectual dishonesty, because if it's based on a belief that they can't justify and they still maintain the belief, then for me that's a sign of intellectual dishonesty. But there's many people out there that you know, I've interviewed so many students that just have an assumptive belief that they're not actively pushing as a biased agenda internally. They just assume and think that what they understand or what they think they understand is correct. I wouldn't say they're intellectually dishonest or deliberately being dishonest. But there is still a form of intellectual dishonesty, because if they're maintaining a belief in something they've never checked or verified for themselves, then, you know, I don't know how to class that all in intellectual dishonesty.
I'm not sure either. I just know I hear you saying it, and I have to wonder, like, how you got to that point, how you, like, because then we're into beliefs again. If we say people are intellectually dishonest, then we assume we know everything, and this person is dishonest.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the whole point of, you know, formal, you know, methods of thinking, like logic and reasoning and these types of things. You know, it's like, if I use an example like misrepresentation, so if somebody asserts to me that they believe bodies of standing water can bend, and I then say, well, understanding the properties of that substance, I understand that that's an absurdity. It's totally impossible for it based on practical reference and demonstration. And then they might jump to trying to misrepresent or use a false equivalence. You know, then I start to see that as intellectual dishonesty, because they're being evasive. They're trying to find a cherry pick a bias, you know, misrepresentation to lend credence to their faulty, you know, worldview. So it's like, we can only offer up reason with each other, and take it or leave it. So as I say, I'll offer up my reasoning processes. I base things on practical reference if we're talking about objectivity. Now, anybody that wants to assert something about the objective reality that we share, for me it has to fit the criteria of what I go by, that being a practical reference. Because that's how I understand, you know, practical, you know, lived life. It's based on practical references. I can listen to theoretical, you know, language about all sorts of stuff, but without the practical stuff, then it's useless to me. There's a cracking wee paper that's called, it was Thomas Nagel that wrote it, called What It's Like to Be a Bat. Just have a wee read of that.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. I guess I'm trying to, like, really get down to where you're coming from. So
I think it's quite simple, Barbara. There is a subjective world, that is the world of your internal, you know, dialogue and preferences and wants, desires, yada yada yada. There's another world that encompasses you called the objective reality with its deterministic physical laws. So, you know, substances and the physicality of the world that we're in. So it's very simple. If you're making a claim to me about that objective side of it, then it's based on objectivity, which is physical. So where's your physical practical reference to support your assertion? But if you're making an assertion about something subjective, it's a totally different discussion. Because if it's subjective, then it's metaphysical. It's not something you can demonstrate to me. We can only discuss it. So it's dead simple. You know, do unicorns exist and unicorns can fly? Right, show me the unicorn and show me it flying. Can he? Right, so what you're saying to me is total bullshit. Standing bodies of water can bend, blah blah blah. Well, show me. Can he? Right, well, you're talking crap. So I don't know how it's hard to understand that.
No, I want to, like, try to. Okay, so when someone makes an assertion, then is when they become intellectually dishonest.
Well, it depends if you've got to categorise. If they make an assertion about objective reality and they can't demonstrate it, then it has to look at them as being intellectually dishonest. I mean, would you think I was an honest person, Barbara, if I asserted to you that pink flying unicorns existed and I can't show you it, but I'll show you a video. Would you look at me
Well,
as...
no, but however, we're talking about two. We're talking about two things that are not demonstrable. You can't prove either side.
What would you mean in regards to what?
In the regards to your world,
Are you talking about the dimensions of the earth?
I'm talking about opinions that people have based on their world, but neither.
But Barbara, it's like you're talking in riddles. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to put you down or anything. I'm just clarifying to you that I don't understand exactly what the point is that you're trying to make. It's like I'm trying to extract it. Are you talking about? We're talking about the shape of the earth. Is that you were talking about that topic?
I mean, that's a good place to start.
Well, again, well, give me a specific in that topic then of what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I'm just like, from time to time, I feel very offended by you saying certain people are intellectually dishonest.
You're offended?
Yes.
What does that mean? Give me an example, Barbara. You're not being specific. Give me a specific example of a particular person and an example of what was stated so that we've got clarity on what you actually mean. You're talking in riddles right now without any clarity.
Okay, let's talk about Jim Panda.
Right.
And let's talk about him being intellectually dishonest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, though, you're saying about demonstrable proof.
Mm-hmm.
And you have no more demonstrable proof than he does.
In regards to what?
In regards to the shape of his world.
Well, Barbara, standing bodies of water, the substance known as water, is demonstrable. It's demonstrable that the assumption of the geometry of the earth beneath our feet is treated as a plane. That's why we apply Euclidean plane principles in every aspect and faculty of our being. Right? That's not just my opinion. That's a demonstrable fact, Barbara. Now, guys like Jim Panda, as I recorded earlier, try to deny that. There was people on his Discord saying that Euclidean geometry can be applied to curved surfaces. Blatantly wrong, right? We had Jim Panda making assertions that you can make a visible observation without having to account for the apparatus, that being the eye, and disregard it like it doesn't matter. That's intellectual dishonesty, Barbara. If somebody like him is going to say to me, I see a circle in the sky, and I'm going to assume this, then I have to ask the questions, well, let's look at your assumptions. How are you accounting for the apparatus that you're using to make that assertion? And I get, it doesn't matter. Well, that's intellectual dishonesty. That's just somebody who's doesn't want to go there, cherry picks some wee, phenomena or visible phenomena that he wants to take that suits his bias. That's intellectual dishonesty. So you can be offended for Jim Panda all you like, and again, it's totally absurd that you come on here saying you're offended for somebody else. Are you a Jim Panda fanatic and part of a cult that you're out to defend him?
What is it, a cult? What are we saying a cult is?
Can you just clarify? Are you speaking for Jim Panda?
No, I'm just giving an example.
Well,
you
said you were offended, and I gave you reasons for why I make that statement, which are justified based on what I've just offered you. Now, you're not acknowledging what I've just offered you and reasoning with that and coming to some acknowledgement and saying, well, that's justifiable. I see what you're saying there.
I mean, I see your point, yes.
Right, so are you still offended? See, what you're saying when you say you're offended, it's like you think I'm some mindless bully that's just attacking Jim Panda for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
No, absolutely not. If I thought you were a mindless bully, I would have never asked for the link. I know you're not a mindless bully.
Right, so how can you be offended? What does offended mean? Have I hurt Jim Panda? Have I physically intruded on his life? Have I caused him some loss, harm, injury in any way, shape or form that would be a cause for concern, some criminal act? No, haven't I? Are you not offended by the treatment I've received from these people? These people have misrepresented and portrayed me in barefaced lies, left, right and centre for years now. I don't see you coming on with concerns about that, Barbara.
I absolutely am offended on both sides. I don't think it's appropriate for people to say nasty stuff about you.
Well, this is the whole point, Barbara. I started out in this process professing and laying out the facts that I'm talking about an objective subject here, right? We're talking about objectivity. These people have partaken in subjective propaganda, lies, misrepresentation, abuse left, right and centre. I'm never the one that's go and look at my channel. Can you find hit piece videos? Can you find slanderous lies about people on my channel anywhere?
I mean, yeah, I get that.
So what you should be looking at is the reasons behind these people and what's driving them, because they're no intellectually honest. If they were, they would have came to the table ready to have a rational discussion without emotionally, charged propaganda and bullshit.
I don't see how it cannot become emotionally charged, because you have two sides of a coin that are arguing with what side is the best or what side is correct.
No. That's not me though. That's not me. That's them that creates that dichotomy, because they're part of a cult. They're defending a religious belief. I'm the one that's discussing objectivity and willing to have a rational, reasonable discussion, laying out the practical references and demonstrations of claims that are being made. That's what I'm asking for. They don't provide any of that. So there isn't two sides when it comes to it. This is the point, Barbara. It's not an idea that's to be won or lost by argumentation. Objective reality is singular. If a claim has been made about objective reality, there must be a practical reference. I don't know why that's so hard. It's not unreasonable. It's
not that hard, but you're still, at the same time, you're calling globe cult, and all someone has to do is say, oh, well,
Barbara,
maybe
Barbara, listen to me for a wee second, Barbara. I don't know if you're aware, but I actually go into the real world and I go to places of academia, like universities. I have highlighted time and time again that these people in the higher echelons of intelligence, apparently, are making statements and professing, things about objective reality, and when they're questioned on it, they have absolutely no clue as to why they believe in a certain things that they do. So as a cult, that is what a cult does. It has minions and members who regurgitate and repeat statements and mantras, and when questioned upon them, have no fucking clue as to why they're shouting them. So that's a cult. It's blind belief and faith in something they have no clue about.
I mean, I agree that you shouldn't shout out what you don't know. And it's very, very likely that people should just say, we don't know.
Exactly.
But that's not what happens in the real world. And that doesn't make everybody bad.
No, it's that's what I'm saying. Basically, just because they have beliefs, and in those beliefs there's certain mantric statements and things like that they regurgitate. It doesn't mean that they're inherently bad or evil or doing it deliberately. I've pointed at this. As I said before, I was one of these people, Barbara. I asked the questions for 36 years of my life. Was that lying? Was I lying to my children? Was I lying to my loved ones and friends and other family? No. I just believed and assumed that what I was regurgitating was the truth, although I had never really checked. So I agree with you. But the people that we're getting, these people, the same characters over and over again, who have had it stated to them, who have been asked the questions and they just ignore it and keep coming back, that's cult zealotry, Barbara, I'm afraid to say.
Yeah, okay, I feel you. I get you. I'm just trying to like understand.
Right. Well, hopefully you
Where-
understand. I think I've tried and endeavoured to make it very clear. You know, as I say, when I'm out in the real world with these new people that I meet, you don't see me shouting and bawling and arguing with them and calling them cult members and loonies and all this stuff. I address that to the characters who are, you know, coming constantly at us, like the Timmies, the Gem Pandas and these types of characters. They're online characters. But in the real world, I deal with people with compassion and empathy and understanding. And I try and reason with them.
I think sometimes empathy doesn't always it doesn't always like reflect what we think it should. I am not sure.
Well,
I
for me, I think I've tried to reflect that. I don't treat people with antagonistic attitudes or authoritarian or bullyish attitudes. I try and be, you know, indirect, calming, responsive, you know, attentive. I mean, I don't know what else I could possibly do.
Yeah, I just like had if you wanted to join and ask you a couple questions, and I am not defending anybody. You said give me an example, and Jim just came to mind. I don't know Jim Panda, and therefore I can't judge him.
Well, based on my experience, I can make that judgment call based on my experience. And as I say, you know, when I try and reason with them, there is no reasoning with them. You know, as I say, that happened again this afternoon. You know, I eventually decided I'm going to go and see what's happening in the Discord server. I went in there and, you know, immediately they're just, you know, antagonising, you know, ignoring, obfuscating, all the usual behaviours. So, it's a reflection of them. I really am not interested. But as I said at the start of this, I have no ill will towards any of these people whatsoever. I don't know them. And I don't harbour any hatred towards them. So, I've made that abundantly clear as well. I have a contempt for their intellectual dishonesty and I display that. But that's it. I don't hate them. I don't wish them ill will or any of that stuff.
Yeah, I don't assume you hate anyone. I don't.
Well, that's it. You know, as I've said before, I wish people like Gem Panda and all these people all the best. They're entitled to be them. But when they come at me, you've got to remember they're coming at me, Barbara. I'm not going actively pursuing them. They're actively pursuing me.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
I do know that.
Right,
I get it.
So it's like the burglar coming into your home to rob you, an armed robbery in your home, and you shoot him, and then somehow the burglar's the victim. I mean, I don't know how that works.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I'm gonna exit.
No
I wasn't trying to like start trouble.
No.
I actually like you, so this was a difficult thing for me to even like ask. And so for the people in the chat who are judging me, you are doing exactly what Dell is telling you not to do.
Well, that's the problem, Barbara. That's a problem online when there's people in chat boxes. They don't represent me, they represent themselves. But because they're in my chat box, somehow an association's tied to me, I'm not responsible for these people. So I can't.
Well, I know that. I know that. I do.
Well, I can't answer for them.
I'm speaking from what I'm seeing running up the side here.
Right.
And you got a guy who wrote a book who claims he knows about the sun and he knows about how people are feeling and what's going on. And I'm this professional sun guy and all these people saying blah, 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 and take your meds. But you get on the freaking hangout and you confront whatever it is. I'm curious about the way Dell is feeling and thinking, so I asked.
That's it.
If you don't like it, then I don't know what to say.
Well, that's it. Well, at least you've got the backbone to come in and address it head on, Barbara. I mean, that's the problem with these people. There's so many people hide away in comment sections and yada yada, but they'll never come and have a discussion about it. To try and have clarity and understanding. So, as I say, I don't represent them. I can only represent me. I'm only one guy, you know.
Yeah, I know. And you know I like you, and you know that I'm not coming here to give you a hard time. I'm digging, I'm picking, I'm curious.
That's it. Well, keep being curious.
Anyway, I'm gonna go because I'm messing up your hangout. So
No.
thank you for your time.
Not at all. I don't know why you would think we're messing it up, but appreciated. Cheers for coming on.
Okay, bye.
Take care. Right. Teddy boy, aye, no worries, mate. Just give me a shout. I'm not going to read all that out. I don't know if you intended it to be read out, but just give me a shout, Teddy boy. You just message me on here and we can have a private chat anytime. Well, as long as I'm not busy, obviously. Right, Polar Ian. I have a question. We are reaching 2025. There's been on the news. Documentaries have been made and a lot of debates were promoted. What, in your opinion, can or will happen next year in terms of reaching more people and if Flat Earth will be able to stay out from YouTube? I don't know what you mean by Flat Earth. It's already out of YouTube. You know, there's people that go out and speak to loved ones, strangers, people like me that go to the street, the high street, the universities. It all depends on how willing people are to get active in discussing it and representing it properly. So that's all going to be defined by how much effort people put into it. You put more and actually hit the main stages of science debates. Well, again, I don't know what that means, science debates, because objective reality is singular. It's not there to be debated. If there's a debate, it's because something's been interpreted that cannot be quantified properly. So it's guesswork, and you've got two people going by a particular line of reasoning for whatever reason, and having a bias. But so again, Polar Ian, it just depends on how willing people are to actually get active. Scott, after watching your Celtic Park interviews, mentioned, could this world be the fruit of a creator? So if not a religious entity, do you reason that the constructors are still in existence? The fellow humans collaborate with them to keep you, me and everything under control and containment? I don't know, mate. This is the whole point. You know, what I was saying was that people always come to a creator, like a god deity thing, and assumptions about what it wants and its intentions and yada yada. You know, I just think differently. You know, what if there's a caste system of an amount of eternal souls or whatever, and that this is just a formulation of a tech based on whatever avenue one of these souls went down, having the means to physicality, materials, playing with it, seeing what they could come up with. I mean, there could be any possibility to what this is about. I think we're being kept, there's a definite push to keep us under control and have our attentions aligned with particular avenues of thought, you know, and keep us contained. I think that's blatantly obvious. We have border controls, we have restricted areas. I think that's a sure sign that we're being kept under control and contained. Exactly, Fancy Man. It's not about characters. I said that from the very off. Different characters are good because they can appeal to so many different people. You know, it's like if we want to put out information of the internal combustion engine, you know, and it's useful to the human populace, and you want to capture their attention, then you utilise the different types of personalities, utilising their artistic, you know, output, in order to put that information out there, you know, so that it appeals to different factions of the peoples. But what's important is that those people that are putting that out there, the ones that are doing the advertising campaign, are factually correct and representing exactly the product that they're trying to share or the information they're trying to share with people. So exactly, you know, characters are useful, but, you know, that's it. As long as what they're offering is factual, no muck, no unnecessary pish added into it, in order so that it would remove any confusion. So I fully agree. What we get is, you know, characters out there going, oh, the internal combustion engine works on the principles of induction, compression and exhaust, and it's fueled, the force that powers it is unicorn spunk bubbles that comes from the fourth dimension and transcends through a portal of mathematical complexity into the induction chambers that causes the explosion. Well, we knew we've started to have a problem. The characters knew when off the fucking rails and disseminating the information to the other populace. He's now telling them pish, giving them falsities. You doing, Emerald Rider? That's it. It's not just articulating, it's putting that into practice as well, fancy man. That's the rhetorical aspect. You know, we'll get to that, you know, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and how those terms are interchangeable. But we'll have a look at it, but it has to be in that order: grammar, logic, rhetoric. Can understand how to articulate information, but you know what they have to do is be able to take that information, put it into a practical, you know, frame of reference, so that they have a practical understanding of the information that they're passing on. Because if they're not, they're just repeaters, repeating stuff that they know nothing about. What's your thoughts on darkness after death? I hope no, Polly, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to know ever. So what's the point in worrying about it? Does that make you scared that you want to cling to your life? Is that maybe the mechanism? Again, back to this drive in his own, keep perpetuating survival, survival, because the fear of the blackness. Well, you're not going to know. So I used to be bothered about that because I was young and I had energy because I had a zest for life and I wanted to do stuff and shag and fucking get motorbikes and fucking this, that and the other. And then I became disillusioned. And then the prospect of utter blackness wasn't that scary anymore. We still get peace. Curzo Magentica. You want to elaborate on the point I made. There's a deterministic component to nature and a free will component. The objective laws of nature are the limit of free will. So to expand on this point, there appears to be a deterministic component and a random component to reality existing in conjunction with each other. I think we are in agreement here, dualism. Yeah, that's what, you know, I was pointing at me that I can go more along that road. The deterministic component is natural law, the laws of the objective reality we share, the physical laws that are set, that we cannot change. Natural laws determined as a deterministic component to reality. Totally agree. Then there's a randomness component to our reality that continually works in conjunction with natural law determinism, known as free will, i.e. our ability to choose our behaviours, to do and to not do certain things. Every single being that has the capability of thinking is gifted with free will, right? So the truth lies somewhere in the middle of these two worldviews. Yes, you do have free will, but free will within the limits of determinism, right? I get what you mean and know, of course. But you've also got to take into consideration again, because, you know, we're limited in our understanding, but there's claims being made by, you know, experimentation or no experimentation, testing of subjects and, you know, neuroscience that talks about, you know, how even before an action is taken, there's signals and things happening before. So there's arguments, you know, in regards to that, but maybe in the future we'll have a further discussion about that. There's still things you have to consider, but I totally agree so far with what you're saying. That's exactly how I see it. There is obviously a deterministic aspect and free will is bound by it, but we still have, you know, choice and impulse within it, and we can either choose to do things or no do things. Well, or a word that probably appears that we have that choice, you know, but some would argue that it's determined anyway. Who knows, mate? It's all interesting discussion and something that I'm willing to discuss about further, you know. But the point is, nobody really knows, do they? You can do that whole thing. All right, okay, well, I have to pick a decision here, but I'm going to try and trip myself up and go, right, I really was going to pick the brown bread, but I tricked myself, and at the last second I changed it, went for the white bread. So therefore, I tricked the deterministic aspect, and people will just say, but that was all determined anyway. This is just the way people will argue about these metaphysical aspects, you know. There's really no resolve. It just comes down to, you know, you as an individual, seeing it the way you see it and progressing on from that. The problem is when you get these dipshits that start asserting it, that their argument's right, therefore it should stand as an objective truth. I know what consciousness is and I know what it isn't. I am God. Delusional fuckwits. There's been many great minds discussing these problems for years and years. You know, and there's always morons out there that are going to jump on and say, I know, I've got the answer. No, you don't. Somebody could tattoo Satan in their forehead, none of it makes the globe fancy real or physically possible. That's it. They've also got an assumption of what they think this non-physical, imaginary Satan looks like for them to tattoo it on them in the first place. Exactly, Shelley. Still going on about fucking tattoos. You know what I mean? Let's not deal with anything the man's saying. Let's just continually bombard people by pictures. Oh, look at his tattoos. Oh, his tattoos means this. Yeah, it's going to need a lot of funds, fancy man. It's going to need the logistical aspects of human endeavour, physical presence. Who's going on about tattoos again? See, all these clowns are just fearmongers. They're trying to keep people in fear by giving them the illusion that there's this superior group of godly powered beings that are all secretive and fucking whatever. They'll just say, Happy Mushroom, that your Illuminati friends, you know, fixed you with special technology that they got from the alien overlord, Satan God, right, that lives underground and works through the world with wee men in robes that roll their trouser legs up and touch each other's nipples and all that. That's what it'll say. Who can't hear what I'm saying? They can't comprehend what I'm saying, or they can't hear what I'm saying. Aye, Andrew, exactly. He talks about Freemasonry still has 3 square meals a day. Exactly, Celtic 67. That indeed makes you a black supremacist. Aye, Ali, that's it. Scary concepts in order to control people and moderate their behaviours. That allows them to be irresponsible. They can just throw their hands in the air and say they're at the whim of overlords, a good guy and a bad guy, and they're just a wee pawn in the middle. Ooh. Removes all responsibility. To trans-investigate you now as well, Harley, apparently. He's calling you a wee woman. That clown. Cheers, Colin. I'm not going to say too much on that character that you want me to share his videos, but I'm not going to do that, Colin, based on my experience of the guy. He just takes other people's work and snippets them and puts it together and puts it out there. It's just about getting followers and views on a YouTube channel. And as I say, based on my experience of that guy, I'm not going to share any of his stuff. So I appreciated it, mate. I'll have a wee look at it. I'll maybe put it into my own words or my own format and share it with people if I think it's useful to them. But I'm not going to put people towards that guy's channel. The next time we meet up, I'll get a chat with you about why. Right, I think we've reached the end. There's no other requests to join, so I'm just going to shut that down. I'll shut that down. That down, that down. Don't need that, don't need that. Right. Aye, a wee couple of minutes. I'll roll the good smoke for when I finish, and I'll just sign off with what's been offered in the chat box. I'm not away yet. You're paying attention. Trackmatic, give us a shout, mate, and we'll fucking hook up, get a wee chat, maybe a jam at some point. You're not that far away. See if there's people in the chat box that you don't like or you don't agree with. You don't need to take wee huffs and say you'll not be back and all that. Just don't engage. It's dead simple. This is people make out that oh, I'm not going back to that chat because this character and that character. Well, don't engage. Don't give them your attention then. You're the one that's making them something and having some power over you. That's bizarre. I want to be a victim and point the finger at big baddie, text messages on Tinterwebs is somehow affecting your psyche. I mean, says a hell of a lot about you. Teeth's interesting that teeth have a voltage. I think that's interesting. There's a voltage in your teeth. You can actually get a reading from them. It can't be good if all your teeth are then removed, can it? Surely. Shed to shed. Good on you, Boom Me. That was an idea I had years ago. Starting that shed to shed radio or something. Tell us a meanie. Oh, son. My big bad meanie. Better go away and make a video so you can get views there. And likes, and then all your wee minions can come in and go, aye, that Dale, he's just a big bastard. Just a big, evil, bad bastard. Never any specifics, just emotional spewing of hatred. Because it's all emotionally crippled, insecure, weak, wee dweebs. That's who you pander to. Trolls v trolls, that's your target audience. Weak-minded buffoons. Innit? Again, says a lot about you. Dale's your big meanie. Oh, he's a big meanie bad guy. I've ascertained that because of what I've seen on a screen. I've never met the guy in person. I've never spent any time with him in any real sense or capacity, but I'm going to call him a big meanie. I'm going to misrepresent him, put him on my channel so I can get views and likes, and then all my wee idiotic weak-minded gimps are going to come in and reaffirm my weak-minded gimpiness. Wow. You carry on, son. I'll try and not lose any sleep. You want me to stop bullying you? Don't come here. Feeling bullied? Again, you have to look at your psychology and how weak you are. You're being bullied. Nobody invited you. I don't see a gun at your head forcing you to be here. Me emotive faces with tears. Oh, that's a wee shame. Everybody gie trolls we trolls a wee cuddle. It's desperate for a cuddle and acceptance. Russian vids isn't a Christian. Get a grip of yourself, Bob Bobrovsky. The guy is anything but a Christian. Of course he's taking the piss flat of God music. Humour him. Dale's not deleting any of the videos because of embarrassment. Dale doesn't care. Embarrassment denotes that you care about what other people think about you. I think you're looking at the wrong guy for that, I'm afraid. These my pit bull. Yeah, Ricky Swaticus, hope you're well, mate. No worries, worry without a curve. I'll leave them up for a while. Close the day trolls versus trolls, way too seriously. People take life in general way too seriously. They all care about everybody else thinks of them, and it's all about keeping up appearances and fucking stature and acceptance and delusions. I couldn't give a fuck about any of that. Right. Take it easy, everybody. I shall see you all very soon. Bye bye now.